It is 7 p.m., so we shall call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting. The Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 23rd day of January 2024, 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Carrie, Blosha, Kushniryk, Reeve, McGregor, Terry, Neely, and Byron, Zbirun. Interim CEO Pat Ellingson is with us, and our videographer Jeremy Bergen is here for at least a few minutes before he ducks out for another meeting. We don't have anyone absent tonight, full house for council, so we'll skip into number 2 for the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting held this 23rd day of January 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? I see Councillor Burick and Councillor Neely. Does anyone have any changes or additions to the agenda they'd like to propose tonight? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. Number 4, general business, fairly light tonight. We're going to take a look at the Public Works report in there. So it's attached to your agenda. I'm going to read over it here quickly as well. So this is from our lead hand, Scott. He completed his Manitoba compliance training course. If you don't know what that is, because we are a commercial carrier with MPI, because of the size of equipment we have, we're a private, not-for-hire carrier, but under their new rules, we must have someone that has compliance training course done. So we were required to train someone. We chose Scott for that because he's ultimately responsible for that sort of stuff anyway. It was a full week session, so it was done by distance, but it did take the entire week to do it. So certainly his time was a fair premium that week. He tried to fit stuff in when he could around breaks, but there was an exam at the end, so he had to pay enough attention to the course to still pass, and he did. So congratulations to Scott. He is now fully certified in that. Indicates we're plowing snow in all areas. That's not a big surprise. Ridging has begun as well, although ridging in some areas, there's not a lot of snow to ridge. There's only some places it can be done. Unit 51 Paul's grader had no heat. It was a heater fan, needed to be ordered. It's back in service. You'll see in the check listing, we need to change businesses because that heater fan was $1,400. It's astounding, but so be it. That's the price of the part from them. For a cat heater fan. I know, I know. Unit 54, Chris's grader, was picked up January 12th, sent to Winnipeg Brant. That's a warranty recall. You'll recall we've discussed that before. They were supposed to pick it up in the summer. There was a couple different dates. It was supposed to be gone for a week. The first week of that, Chris actually took holidays that week, so he wouldn't be there to need his grader, and they could just use it for a week. It never happened. They finally picked it up. We demanded a spare for the time it was gone because it's the time of year where we don't want to be short. They did bring us one. Unfortunately, it has no snow equipment on it whatsoever. No wing, no plow, no mounting brackets for that. So they are using it for things like Benito a little bit if there's something they can do there, but for the most part, it's not particularly useful. They got it apart, discovered that the warranty issue is much bigger than they thought. So they've had to order new parts for it. They're now thinking the end of January before it's returned. We're using the 140 for Chris right now. He's been driving that, and it's working okay for what he's doing. TNC was out and repaired the fire hydrant valve that was damaged. If you recall, there was that issue on the night of Malonka in Benito, where someone hit that fire hydrant. It was still leaking after we closed it that night. So TNC was out, they thawed it all, they were able to get the valve to close the rest of the way. So the fire hydrant has not been repaired, but there's now no water leaking. We had been losing about 2 liters a second out of it, so it was a fairly substantial leak. The practical upshot of that is we had to order more chlorine because we were treating a lot of extra water that week before we got it closed, but that's all taken care of now. Fire hydrants being assessed for damage. We're going to determine if it can be repaired or has to be replaced. There is a kit for fire hydrants to fix this type of problem, so it's possible that we may be able to do a kit. If it needs to be a fire hydrant, it's a $5,000 touch for a new hydrant, plus the digging and putting it in. So that work continues. It will likely be spring before anything is done with that, simply because it doesn't make sense to do it in the winter and spend even more money on it. There are other fire hydrants in that area, so that one being out of service doesn't preclude having fire protection there. It just means they stretch the hose a little further, so they're okay as far as that goes. The first load of those dumpsters arrived last week to Durban. Next load is expected to arrive Friday. So there was 34 total, as you'll recall. It was a great deal. We had a quote at our last meeting for 3 loads of that. for whatever reason, we hired a load broker from Winnipeg, was where the quote came from. They hired a trucking company. They only brought 7 on the first load when they should have had 12. So that's caused some consternation in a lot of places. We've been having that discussion with them, and we're fairly steadfast on the idea that they quoted 3 loads for a price, and that's what we're going to pay for, even if it takes them 5 loads at the rate they're currently hauling them. We did take pictures of that first load, and I can tell you there was room for 5 more dumpsters on it. They just didn't put them on when they loaded. So that will get itself sorted out. No doubt we'll be hearing about it at our next meeting with some sort of outcome of it's all good or having a dispute over the bill. There's a question that's on the agenda later to discuss, but the 2006 Kenworth T800 Semi, questions to us about repairs or replacing or finding a different truck. So we will talk about it a little later. The engine repair would be 30 to 35,000 for an in-frame rebuild. Value of the truck, they say after that would be about 75,000. Safety, new 5th wheel. So I know Councillor Kushniryk has some thoughts on trucks he's looked at and such. So we'll get into that a little later for some discussion on what we should do. But we need to make a decision at some point. That is the Public Works report for tonight. Does anyone have comments or questions on it? Hearing none, we're going to jump into 5.1, general checks for the final, sorry. Minutes? How do I miss that every time?
I don't know, it's number 3, but.
Okay, back to number 3, or the minutes. Be it resolved, the minutes of the regular council meeting held on January 9th, 2024 be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha and Councillor Neely. Has everyone had a chance to read through those minutes? Does anyone need more time? Okay. Is there any errors or omissions in the minutes that we need to correct? I will note that the CAO has informed me that we had a resolution last meeting for the tax sale.
Yeah, I see.
It's not in there because when we went to do the minutes, the system had not saved the mover and seconder, and so we didn't have an accurate recording of that vote. So rather than spending a bunch of time on it, we just bumped it into this agenda. We'll do it again quick tonight, and it's not in these minutes. Anything else on the minutes tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay, let's try again. 4.5.1, general checks. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19468 to 19499, the amount of $120,053.27. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution? Anyone at all? Councillor Neely. I have most of the checks and invoices here. Let's open it up for questions. Who would like to talk about one of them?
19472, what is it? Number the 5th or 6th check on there.
Well, that's where we just put the money into the account so that you can pay bills and stuff out of there.
That's the 10,000.
When you
Yeah.
pay online?
So we have at the credit union,
Instead of a credit card or whatever.
we have the main credit union accounts that have the $1 million in them. But because the credit unions got burned so bad down south with Gladstone and the money getting drained out, they no longer, there was an incident a couple of years ago where somebody got in and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on them and they didn't notice in time. So since then, you can't see our main bank accounts online for any reason.
Oh,
There's only one account we can see, and that's that account that we can pay bills out of. So we typically keep around $20,000 in there. As we pay bills, then we write a check back into it.
Okay.
So there's no way for money to get into it without us physically signing a check. So should something happen, the most we can lose is $20,000 instead of $1 million. It's just a security thing to keep it separate.
I just, first time I noticed it, man, it's been there before.
There's been several. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 10. There's different amounts go. Councillor Zbirun looked like he had a question first, and I'll let Councillor Blosha.
Sure.
19478.
1947.
Is that the new garbage truck?
Compacting garbage truck in Benito, yeah.
That's got work done to it?
With the safety and,
So this is parts for the garbage truck, a bulb for $2.32, fuel conditioner, a liter of brake fluid, 490 short T, 4SS clamp, And the expensive thing is a stoplight switch kit for $525. So I think that's the parts for the safety.
Is that truck ours or is that the LUDs?
The LED owns nothing. They own it all.
Okay,
They did pay for it, thank them very much, but they don't own the equipment.
okay.
Anything else there of interest? There's the one for Jerome Kane, that's gravel levy. That's our raw gravel that we used for crushing. Oh, Councillor Blosha, sorry. for that
Yeah,
first.
sorry, no, I was just, can you explain the credits here from Cal Tire? What the credits are about? There was 2 credits, which I'm not complaining, they're credits, but I was wondering why they're credits.
Take a peek. So the one's the exact amount of an invoice. I'm assuming that invoice was,
Twice?
yes, and it's different amounts. So the 2092-12 credits off the one invoice, then it's re-invoiced for 2170-29. I'm
Oh,
not
okay, well,
sure.
that would maybe be why the 179 in the bottom too, but I don't understand it. There's so many other.
So the difference between the 2 invoices is a difference in the price of the tires. On the first invoice of $398.46 for a different tire. The second invoice is a new kind of tire, that's $415.43. So presumably they invoiced the wrong tire or something must have been, they had to change to a different kind of tire. So the one is credited in its entirety, then the new one is invoiced.
Yeah, that credit refers to whatever U means, number 203, which is the tires up above us.
Yeah. I don't know if I can fully explain the 179.20 credit, other than it's basically the difference of it.
There's a separate invoice, isn't there? For that credit.
What do I
It's
have
gotta be
here?
for 1612.
It's for balancing the tires. It's a credit for 4 tire balances. So for whatever reason, that must have been billed in error at some point.
So the reason that we,
There are probably 4 drives that didn't need balancing.
yeah, the reason that we showed it that way is because we had the invoices and this was recorded,
Okay,
that we received them and that's what they were.
okay. So I'm told it's a admin issue to make sure all the invoices show as received, so no one can say, oh, you missed an invoice. That's why it looks so weird. So every invoice that came from them got into the computer. So if later on they say, oh, wow, this invoice, we can say, oh, no, here it is, and here's the credits.
Thanks.
Yeah, it appears that probably when they changed tires, then they meant to, I don't know. Sorry, I'd like to provide a better answer than that.
No, I just wondered because it was the exact same amount and then it wasn't.
I think they decided that that balancing was included with the tires.
Oh,
price of
okay, I
the
see,
tires.
yeah, so it shouldn't have been billed in the first place,
Yes.
I got it.
I-
Munisoft is on here, that's mostly our annual service renewal, there's about $900 there is the bank reconciliation module we're going to use now, so Lois has that, is doing her thing. OSS is the normal stuff, co-op is mostly fuel, Tormont Industries at $1355.22, the aforementioned heater motor. Valley Bearing's a bunch of little stuff, Valley Door is some sort of wrench and something else. If anyone's horribly interested, I can dig it up. It's small parts. Any other questions on checks tonight?
Do you have a question there?
No.
You good?
Just rattling.
The gravel.
Okay. Hearing nothing else, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 5-2 payroll checks. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 288 to 302. The amount of $25,644.62. Is there someone that would like to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, and to second the resolution, Councillor McGregor. Copy of the pay summary is attached for Council's viewing. Is there any discussion or questions anyone would like to have on it? Councillor Neely.
The second check on the list, I'm a little kerfuffled with that one.
Number 10 there?
Yeah,
Yeah, 10, yeah.
So we
It
paid
seems
them.
out of line, all of but.
There's a bunch of vacation paid there.
Oh.
There's $2,561 of vacation was paid out. So I assume that must have been paid out from last year.
Just
Let's
got,
see if someone nods, yes.
it just got paid out, so we didn't
Didn't-
take the holidays, then
Right.
it just got paid out instead. That'll answer that question. I thought that's what it was, but it wasn't.
Okay. Anybody else?
I see we still need Tyler Parks, right?
We do. There's a little discussion on that in camera,
Okay.
because that will come to an end shortly.
Okay.
He's found a new career path. So we'll have to discuss
Okay.
what's next in camera. Anybody else with questions? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. 5.3 indemnities. Council's favorite part. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments: indemnities for December number 4550 to 4558, the amount of $8,919.30. Copy of the indemnity listing is attached publicly so everyone can take a look if they want. These technically are December indemnities, but they're paid in January, so it's your first payment of January. December from this year will be in January of next year, of course. I see this amounts here. What I don't see is the actual indemnity sheets. If anyone's looking for those, we can get them for you as well. This is just a summary attached tonight. Does anyone want copies of the other version of it? Well, if we remember, we will get it attached to this agenda, because I know there's some people at home that like to see those. So we'll try and attach it after the fact so people can take a look on the website and see what they say. Did I have a mover and seconder already?
No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
so moved by Councillor Neely and seconded by Councillor Zbirun. Couldn't decide if I forgot or if the computer deleted them again, because sometimes it does that for spite. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 541 is the capital plan. We're going to leave it for now and come back to it, time allowing, to the end of the meeting to see how we're doing for timing. Let's see where we're at. We're going to head to 6.1, mutual aid agreement. So this is a discussion item. We'll discuss, we do have a resolution prepared, but let's discuss first on this. The fire chiefs from the various fire departments of the valley have met. They've been working on this for a while to get a new mutual aid agreement. So this is the draft they have all agreed to present. And from what I understand, it is all of them have agreed to present this draft now. So they have sorted out whatever differences they were having, and they've come to terms of what it says. So this provides essentially for mutual aid between the various fire departments. What has stayed in it that was controversial but has been softened some is the idea of charging each other if you can't fulfill your role as a fire department. So under this agreement, if you don't have your own fire department to respond to a call, it is not mutual aid if somebody else comes to save you. So let's take, for example, Bozeman, which at the moment doesn't have a functioning fire department. If Bozeman receives a call and can't respond because they have no firefighters and calls out a different fire department for it, that fire department has the right to bill Bozeman for coming because they didn't mount their own response.
But if Minnetonka's goes, then
If
there's no
Minnetonka's
problem,
goes, it's
right?
fine, yeah. And probably the better examples if Minnetonka's can't respond to a call, which has happened in the past. They can't find enough people to respond because everybody's away for the day.
Oh.
And so perhaps Swan Valley ends up going out to a call in Minnetonka's or to call at LP. The idea being that you have to have, according to this, 5 members
So
to the fire
essentially,
department.
if the department's called out to assist, not if they're called out to be.
Yes, if they're there to help, it's free.
So if Minnetonka's, if there's a fire at LC and Minnetonka's didn't go there and Swan River went or Swan Valley Fire Board, whatever you
It
want
was
to
good
call it,
before, but I remember that.
they could bill the RM of Minnetonka's, Bozeman.
So, as long as, in that scenario, as long as Minnetonka's went with their truck and 5 people,
Yeah.
we know they need help. Everybody's gonna go help.
Yeah, but if
And it's
nobody
free, but if
showed up.
nobody shows up.
What about if
Yeah, that, yeah.
Swan River got there first?
I believe that there's a lot of stuff in here about it being optional. And I think the spirit is,
As long as they show and
as
try.
long as they're
it's
coming, they're trying,
Yeah,
they-
okay,
you know.
okay, just curious.
Because nobody's gonna hold back and not go to LP right away, saying, well, let's
No.
let Minnetonka's get there first. Everybody's
No,
gonna
no,
go as
but I
quick as
mean,
they
if
can.
some, if there was a glitch, and
Yeah.
some Minnetonka's would.
What happens a lot of times with the Minnetonka's fire department is they're paged out by 911. They're paged out a second time by 911, and they don't respond. So they're then paged a third time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Swan Valley's paged because they haven't responded twice already. So if you give them a third page, they page the next fire department because they've got 2 minutes. So they're already 4 minutes into waiting for a fire department with no one coming. So at the 4-minute mark, they call the next closest fire department to get going. And then if Minnetonka's does respond, there's some language in here because it's happened that on the third page, everybody's on their way to the Swan River Hall, they're already getting paid for being called out. And then Minnetonka says, oh yeah, we couldn't find our radio, so yeah, we're going. And so there's a charge of $20 a firefighter for that privilege, if they don't go, but they had to get called out, just to pay the bills, because they all get $20 for coming in. So,
Well, as long as all the fire chiefs are in agreement.
they seem to be okay with it. I don't know if they're totally okay with it, but they all sat down at a table, and that's a pretty good thing.
There was some part here, I read there's something about some charges or something.
So in
Then right at
here,
the end, I thought.
yep, so if you get to schedule
Oh, that's the schedule.
C, is it? Has the charges for equipment. So
Yeah,
this used to be a lot more complex. This was softened a lot and made probably smarter. If I ever get to this document, there it comes. So the charges, the thought is if everybody has the same equipment, there's no charge. So everybody has some type of command type thing. Everybody has a pumper, everybody has a rescue. So if you're calling any other fire department for that stuff, as assist, it's free. But if you're calling for something you don't have, and so on this list, that's a snowmobile for $150 an hour, a water tankler is $1,000 an hour, a Zodiac boat is $150 an hour. So say for example, you're the Benito Fire Department, and you call for the water tanker, which lives in Birch River, they will come, but it's $1,000 an hour, because Benito doesn't have a water tanker, doesn't have any way to do that otherwise. So if you're asking for something that you don't have one of, you pay for the privilege.
if the other fire department has one,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So if Valley Water comes, you just pay Valley Water.
Exactly. And if, Benito needs a truck from Swan, everybody's got trucks, free
Yeah.
of charge.
Right.
But if they needed a Zodiac because they had a river rescue going on at Benito, Swan River would charge for the Zodiac under the agreement.
So the wildfire unit is no charge?
It is no charge. And that was, I think there was 2 things at play there. One of them was that we were fairly of the opinion that why shouldn't we look after things in the valley? If it's 5 minutes out of Swan River, there's a wildfire, we can go put it out and save someone's field. Where would we go? Wow.
Are we the only one with the vehicle like that, or?
No. I don't know what the council's view is. My view is that put the fire out.
Yeah,
If there's a canola field on fire and that thing can put it out and save $10,000 of canola, go put the fire out. Who cares who owns the thing? Just get the fire out so we save what we can save. But there's obviously different viewpoints on that. The older you are in life.
what goes around comes around.
I know, right? Like the more we can work together, the better. What is the view of approving this agreement tonight? The process is each council needs to approve it, now that the fire people have recommended it.
I've read through the whole thing today, I don't see a problem with it, but maybe there is, I don't know, it seems like,
I think it's a lot better than what we saw for drafts previously, because the previous drafts, they could not get all the fire chiefs to agree. So they have that agreement now, that's a pretty good sign.
yeah, that's, I just had a couple questions on it, other than that.
Is anybody opposed to looking at approving this tonight? Okay, so I'm gonna read the resolution, we'll see what we go with that. Whereas the Municipality of Swan Valley West, along with the Barrows Community Council, the Municipality of Minnetonka's Bozeman, the Municipality of Mountain, and the Swan Valley Fire Board, together form the Swan Valley Mutual Aid District. And whereas the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West wishes to enter into an agreement to provide mutual aid and or receive mutual aid in the event of a major disaster, now therefore be it resolved that the Municipality of Swan Valley West agree to the proposed mutual aid fire protection agreement. Is there someone that'd like to move the resolution? Councillor Neely and Councillor Kushniryk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.2, may have to go in camera, but we'll start here and see what people think. The Swan Valley Fire Chief, Mr. Fedorchuk, has provided a quote from Guard Securities. At current hall number 2, which is what used to be referred to as Thunder West, has an alarm system. It is a monitored system. It's monitored with a local company. And they are suggesting that it should be monitored with an out-of-town company. The difference is in what it can do. So the current system, you have a code, you go to the fire hall, you enter the code, it turns the alarm off. If you're not at the hall, you can't turn the alarm off. Fire hall number 1 has a system from out of town instead of a local provider. And so what it allows them to do is the fire chief can take out his phone and turn the alarm off remotely. He uses that functionality sometimes when, for example, service providers come in to check a truck. They call and say, I'm at the fire hall now. He turns the alarm system off. They can go in and do what they need to do with the truck without him necessarily being there. So his recommendation is that we upgrade to a similar type of alarm system at Hall 2. I asked him to provide a quote so we knew what he was talking about. So the quote is a total of $1,217. Of that, $470 is a piece of a module that you plug into the system. Then there's $340 of technician time and $387 of travel time from Yorkton, Saskatchewan to come do it. It makes up that $1,217 plus tax. It also would change the monitoring fee. At current we pay, I'm not sure if it's $19.99 or $20, but it's one of those plus tax. So it's about $22.40 a month to the local provider. This would be $45.95 a month. It would make some other differences. This is a cellular monitored system. So right now we're paying for a phone line at Fire Hall 2, which is costing us about $50 a month. We could remove the phone line and save the $50, but don't get your hopes up too quick, because we need to put internet in there someplace, which is going to cost that same amount of money. So even if the phone line comes out, we put the internet in. And we do have a phone line at the Swan River shop. Cable has been installed between the 2 buildings now, so it's just a matter of hooking it up to share the phone line. So even if we kept an alarm system that only used a phone line, we wouldn't have to pay for the separate phone line anymore. So the phone line thing is kind of a moot point. There is no savings to be had there because we can save the money a different way. So it does raise the monitoring about $25 a month. Because this 45 or 46 is plus tax, yeah, the 22.80 is with tax, so it's going to be 50 some bucks a month monitoring. And the question to council, it's our building, it's entirely our choice if we wish to do this. It's not something the fire board can ask us to do unless they're willing to pay for it. What's the thoughts? Do we want to change it or not? Councillor Neely.
What does the town of Swan River have for system?
The town's fire hall, they
Like
have
their
this same
fire hall,
system.
too.
They have this.
They have this one.
Yeah.
You know me, I think we do shop local if we can, but
Yeah, I understand the concept of having the app and stuff. It gives you better management. I have a little bit of heartburn about all the mileage and the hours to drive here to go plug in. Okay, now it's fixed. That's a lot of money.
who's doing it now, Stan?
Yeah. Now, Hall 2 isn't a responding hall typically. So, you know, if the Hall 1 is where firefighters show up all the time and such. Hall 2 isn't, you know, it's more of a storage facility at the moment.
That's what we are over here.
Yeah. I know what I would do if it was my own business. I wouldn't be spending a bunch of money on it,
No.
but
What's the current system costing us?
22.80 with tax a month.
Oh, total.
Total.
Well, that's my vote.
Okay. Anybody want to pursue this other system? We can bring a resolution and vote on it if you want. If nobody's interested in bringing it, there's no point writing one out. So I'm not seeing anyone saying yes to that. If your mind changes at some point, it's as simple as coming back here and saying you'd like to talk about it again, and we can have the discussion again. 6.3, building inspector service agreement. So we had an agreement with the building inspector, but it renews every year. This is to renew it. Whereas the agreement for building inspection services between the Municipality of Swan Valley West and Neil Dodd may be renewed for the year 2024. Whereas the Municipality of Swan Valley West and Neil Dodd have agreed to the renewing the agreement Therefore be resolved, the service agreement shall be renewed for the year 2024. A copy of the renewal is attached. It provides for a retainer of $2 per person. The current census is 2,759 people. Payment of 80% of building inspection fees, 50% of fees for signing fire commissioner building permits, collected by the municipality, $60 a month for a cell phone, workers' compensation fees paid by us, and that is the financial terms. They are unchanged from last year.
That's correct.
So it's the same agreement that we're operating on for 2023. Would anyone like to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution? Councillor Burick. Questions, comments, discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let's talk about 6.5. We're going to skip 6.4 for now. We'll come back to it with that batch of stuff. We had some discussion on this last meeting. The boundary road agreement had expired with the Arm of Livingston. A new boundary road agreement spanning from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2031 is attached. It provides for the maintenance going back and forth in 2-year increments over the years. There are a couple exceptions to that are spelled out as well in the contract. For the most part, this is agreeable to both public works departments. So the recommendation coming from staff is that they're good with us. They just like council to get it approved so they can follow it. I will read the resolution and then we can discuss. Whereas the Arm of Livingston and the Municipality of Swan Valley West work together to provide maintenance of specific shared border roads. And whereas the agreement that details the service provided by each municipality in the years when each municipality will have the responsibility has expired as of December 31st, 2023. And whereas the Municipality of Swan Valley West is agreeable to continue providing maintenance as in the past agreement, now therefore be it resolved, the Municipality of Swan Valley West approves the agreement as attached and forwards said agreement to the Arm of Livingston for their approval. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Discussion, questions, comments. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
You just have to fix some spelling mistakes.
Anybody,
I've picked
The
one
grade?
so far. Oh,
anybody calls now, it's for 2 years.
2 years is a better,
Yeah, you just get rolling with it over 1 year and then,
and especially when it's written down like
yeah.
that.
So, we're going to 6.6, G8 meeting, Veterans Hall. So there is a draft agendas here. So we're looking for a couple things tonight. If somebody has items they want to add to these agendas, now would be a very good time to be mentioning because it's soon going to be too late. The agenda right now for the G8 meeting has the Swan Valley Legacy Committee. That's the new people with the rink. They're going to do a presentation. The town of Swan River scheduled economic development. They haven't shared what that's about and they didn't tell the economic development group what it's about either. So I guess it'll be news to the Economic Development Group what they're talking about. The RCMP JS unit discussions on the agenda, community safety and well-being update, and then there's also a G4 meeting scheduled, which I would assume we're going to do at the same time with the same people there rather than throwing out some of our partners, but I guess the town will determine that or we'll vote on it then. We'll discuss the medical services report, CT scanner update, medical services activity update. There's going to be a discussion on a regional landfill for shared services, discussion on airport agreement, planning district development agreement. We're going to discuss the Thunder Hill Ski Club's request for funding and the AMM June district meeting, which is being held in Swan River this year. They're looking for items that they want to discuss at that meeting. Does anybody want to add anything to that agenda for the whole group? If you can't think of it now or you're too shy, if you could email it tomorrow morning to the CAO, she'll get it to the town and we'll get it done. Probably by the end of this week, it'll be a fairly solid agenda. It'll be too late to add things. So please, in the next day or two, if you have something. At current, we have not passed our new indemnity bylaw. So we do not have authorization for you to attend until we do the next resolution. Be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West approve council members to attend the G4, G8 meeting in Swan River on February 5th, 2024. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely, someone to second, Councillor Kushniryk. We do need a count. You don't have to commit to it in the resolution, but if you could in the next day or so, let the CAO know if you're coming or not, to make sure we have a plate for food for you. Although if you're dieting, you're welcome to show up and not eat. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6-7, whereas the owners of Northwest 10, 34, 28 West have made application to subdivide their property and require conditional approval from the Municipality of Swan Valley West as per community planning, and whereas the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West has reviewed said application, along with the letter received from Municipal Relations dated January 10th, 2024, and have noted that taxes on the property to be divided have been paid, and further that the municipality has no objection to the aforementioned subdivision, therefore be it resolved that we do hereby approve the subdivision of the above noted property, provided that all conditions and requirements are met as included with the letter from Municipal Relations. A copy of the subdivision request is attached to the agenda. We'll pull up here eventually. So essentially, there didn't seem to be much in the way of concerns other than waiting for our approval. This is Carrie and Sherry Senchuk making the application for this particular property. Does someone wish to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk. How are you doing over there, Councillor McGregor? You want to scratch your nose for a second? Yep, you're seconding the resolution. Perfect. Discussion on this. If you've had a chance to look at it, the map is attached there. So essentially they're subdividing the actual dwelling site off of the main property. That's fairly typical if people are going to sell the rest of the land to somebody else and keep the house site or something. So I would assume that's kind of the purpose of what they're up to here. It doesn't create any additional access issues for us. We have roads there already. It's possible we may end up getting cost a approach at some point.
There's approaches there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's the only thing with these.
I see there's an approach right on the edge of the subdivision, so it looks like it's on the side for the land, so it could be that it's fine. Any other discussion? Not, we'll call the question. Who is in favor? Appears to be everybody. So we'll do it all over again for a different property. Whereas, here we go. Whereas the owners of Northeast 1532 29 West have made application to subdivide their property and require conditional approval. I was making sure I had the right one. Conditional approval from the Municipality of Swan Valley West as per community planning, and whereas the Council for the Municipality of Swan Valley West has reviewed said application, along with a letter received from Municipal Relations dated January 9th, 2024, and have noted that taxes on the property to be divided have been paid, and further that the municipality has no objection to the aforementioned subdivision, therefore be it resolved that we do hereby approve the subdivision of the above noted property, provided that all conditions and requirements are met as included with the letter from Municipal Relations. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely, thank you. A copy of this map is also attached, much the same story here, subdividing off a little yard site and a little piece of farmland. By the look of it, I assume will be a beautiful garden for somebody, just from the shape of it. This particular one is an application from Diane McCrae. Does anyone have any?
Just where they got it in, blocked in there on the applicant, be advised that as per section 125(2) of the Planning Act, blah, 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 a new road or extending a road will require public hearing. So that doesn't apply here though, does it? Why would they have that?
I can't see it because the road
Why
is
would they
right
have
by
it?
it.
Block, it's right along the road, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
the driveway shows,
Yeah, I mean,
because they've got the driveway in the,
that's Bob's place, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a question.
Okay.
Why don't they, from 91 feet there and go straight to the road? Why all that curving like that? I mean, that's gonna be a nightmare if, like 20 years from now, if somebody has an argument with the way they, how would you ever serve you know?
Are you saying squared off?
Yeah.
But then it would make it probably
And then they
12.
gotta take farmland out of
It's,
here.
you're
Well, I'm
taking
just talking,
farmland
I'm
out
just
of
talking
deduction.
from that corner, yeah,
Let
then
that
right down to this
change
corner, you
things,
know?
Go straight across for.
No, or even straight across or straight down like this.
So specifically,
Yeah.
the issue is, as drawn, it's exactly 10.0 acres. If it becomes 10.1 acres,
Oh, okay.
we can't simply approve it. We have to hold a public hearing. So they've drawn it in such a way as to exactly meet the representations of the act. If it's more than 10 acres, we have to look at the problem of taking farmland out of production.
Okay.
So I assume that's
That's
why they
probably
did that.
why
They
they did,
probably
yeah.
just drew it as close as they could to get to exactly 10 acres.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.9, Manitoba Environment and Climate Change Inspections. So there's some inspection reports attached here for council that we need to talk about. Let's start with one of the easy ones, the closure of the Durban landfill. So the report indicates we have not sent them a final closure report. Staff will do that here shortly and get it all put together and file it with Mr. Yonkers, and likely that will be the completion of the Durban project. He has looked at it, we've talked about all the information, but he needs it all written down on one piece of paper and sent in, so that's what's going to happen. Number 2 is a warning for the Benito waste disposal facility. This is about the leachate pond. So we had sent an email to them earlier. Staff is going to follow up and see if they received the email or not. And the question was if we really need to construct a leachate pond. There was some work done at one point that said we did. Certainly that was because of the amount of excess water in the pit itself, in that cell. But that water has not been accessed in the last year. So the question is, do we really need to go to the expense of a leachate pond? They're suggesting that we need to have our engineering assessment done on it. Staff will have a discussion with Mr. Yonkers on this and get our ducks in a row as to what exactly we have to do and if we have to build a leachate pond. If we do, the original engineering assessment put the leachate pond where the next cell is to be built, which means we would build it there and then we would have to move it. So if it needs to be built, I would suggest we probably will look into putting it someplace else so that we don't have to move it in a few years' time if we have to create a new cell there. I'm sure we can come to some agreement on putting it in a position that wouldn't cause issues with having to just move it right away and build it a
About
second
enough
time.
land there?
I guess I don't know good enough the rules of where we can put it. If we can put it on already used land, we have plenty. We've got lots of used land. If it has to go on virgin land,
That's what I
then
meant.
it's gonna be tough going to not put it. So, we will have to have some discussion with him.
If you go back to that other one, I have a question there, they got this, they wanna know, the estimated volume of waste deposited in the facility during its operation at the Durban landfill. How would you ever come up with a figure there?
We were gonna email you and have you figure it out.
That one looks good,
I believe that's likely what's going to happen.
like,
That's about all we can do is guess.
how much?
It's impossible to know.
Yeah. I mean, there's never been a scale there, you know, there's no records of anything.
I don't know if there's even been accurate records kept.
Put a million
Bits have
metric
been-
ton down there, that's close enough.
The last one is Benito Lagoon facility inspection. So the inspection carried out on September 22nd. The letter did not come, however, until January 11th. So they're noting that there's some sagging wire on the fence to repair, so Public Works take care of that. And all the rest of that appears to say that we did not have the certificates posted at the water plant as they're required to be on the wall. So we will photocopy their certificates, we will post them on the wall of the water plant, and we will check with Mr. Yonkers to make sure we read that right, but that certainly appears to be what we're reading there, is that their certificates must be on the wall. So we will put them on the wall and clear that inspection problem up. Any discussion on those 3 items that we haven't already had? Okay, we're going to go to the one, Councillor Neely, was that?
No, I would,
Let's go back to 6.4, Benito Splash Park. So this is somewhat an early discussion phase. Councillor Kushniryk is going to speak to this quite a bit. What's attached here, there's been some discussion both at the Shared Services Committee of perhaps looking at doing something in Benito for recreation, namely a splash park. There isn't currently one in the valley. We're certainly aware that Benito would be a great location for one, both to attract more people there, but it's also the travel plans for many people from the rest of the valley. So as they travel to York, they could easily stop in with their kids for an hour, enjoy it at the splash park, perhaps purchase something at a store in Benito, and then carry on their merry way. So the first attachment is a group that will do grant writing for us. they are somewhat connected to where these sample quotes are from. So the concept is that if you are going to buy it from this particular company, these folks will then help you write all the grants at no charge to see what you can get for government money. Chances are, we get 50% of it in grant money, you know, fairly good chance of that. So that's there with just some details of how they do the granting. We certainly don't have to have them do it. If we picked whoever and it wasn't this company, we can write grants ourselves. It's not insurmountable. It's just one of the options they offer. There's a quote here for what I call a small and a large, and to be realistic, the large is not large. You can get much more expensive than this. These are just a couple sample quotes for a community roughly the size of Benito. Certainly there've been some hope that perhaps $100,000 would build a splash park, but welcome to the new world. That's not the case. So the small ones are around 300,000, the large ones are around 400,000. They have pictures in there of what that would be. You don't pick one, you get them to come and look and figure out what could go there and make a plan. These are just samples from other communities that built them to kind of see what would happen. The thought process here, from Shared Services Committee at least, is that if we end up in a situation where we're not paying $150,000 a year towards the pool in Swan River, which is still up for negotiation, there's no firm decision on that yet, but if we were to be there, we would have some money kicking around to look at doing recreation in Benito and improving our own community. Part of the reason this is on the agenda tonight, and Mr. Kushniryk is going to take over in a moment because he just loves speaking in public, is that very shortly we're going to start seeing grant opportunities come out, like building sustainable communities. If we wanted to apply for any of those, we generally have 2 years to do the project, or say we don't want to, but we need a resolution from council authorizing the project to have grants applied for. So we're here tonight to have some discussion on it, see if it's something we're interested in. If it is, it would be advisable to pass a resolution, not that says we're installing one tomorrow, but that grants authority to start going and getting those grant applications in to see what happens, and then also to search out some quotes from a few different companies to see who there are. This particular company are the folks that did the skate park in Benito. So they've already been there before, and Mr. Kushniryk can speak to it more.
I wasn't warned I was doing this, so I'm not at all prepared. I'm not sure that I have a whole lot more to add. The Building Sustainable Communities grant, I think, what is the number, 250,000 on a large project?
Can go up to 300 in some cases.
What we can get on a large scale project, we have to get 10% of private funding for that. Yeah, the guy from PlayQuest is the company. They did the skate park. He knows the area, super fast to respond. I mean, they're really on the ball. There's another company I tried to contact. I still haven't heard back. So I mean, that kind of sways you a little bit there. But there's just so much variety. I mean, it's never ending. So you'd have to really sit down with them, and that'd give you options, I think. Yeah, I don't know where to go with this because I wasn't planning on speaking
So
about
when
it.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you said 10%, that was money that we would raise, maybe the community
It'd be
would raise a
private
little bit?
fundraising, yes.
So private, yeah?
Building sustainable communities up to the $75,000 mark, it's basically free and clear. They pay half, we pay half. Once you get into those large projects, they require 10% of the project cost to be private. That's not municipal in any way. So you can't have the town pay 10%, it's gotta be actual people donated to the project. When Swan River was chasing down this path, they had raised a couple $100,000. That's not to say that all the people that want a splash park in Swan River are suddenly going to say, well, let's donate to one in Benito, but certainly some percentage would. So I don't imagine it would be very hard to raise $40,000.
No, that's what I was
privately.
thinking too. I think that it's
I think it would come very quickly.
No, it should be
it's a good
very
idea,
achievable.
and it will bring,
We've been looking at our water
traction.
flow and stuff, and
Yeah.
everything's doable.
exactly.
It's
All the little places in Saskatchewan have little splash parks that are way smaller.
Councillor Zbirun.
So who's maintaining it? If we're building it, who's maintaining it?
We've had some discussions with the company on what is required for maintenance. So generally a walkthrough once a day. So someone would just in their normal rounds, just at least drive by. It would be better if they walked through, make sure there's nothing plugging the drain or such.
But I mean, like, there's gonna be leaves blowing, there's gonna be somebody
they have a
with
system.
their little chocolate bar that's gonna, you know.
Just like anything else that you'd build anywhere, there will be some instances for sure. Leaves were brought up specifically because there are a lot of trees in the area, and they said, don't worry about the leaves. The way that the system's set up, you've got to just clean some filters there, and leaves aren't a factor.
shouldn't be a factor when they're playing in the water.
No,
And
most
they're
of the
gonna be
leaves
playing
are
in the
gonna
water
fall.
late September,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, when you see how long the other little communities have had them running, and they're not as fancy as this by any means because they're a lot older, they're still running every summer. So,
To me, it seems like a lot of money for 3 months of the year, but
I know,
We will
know.
stretch it to 4. And, you know, it's one
Yeah.
of those things that will bring people, because if you've got toddlers and stuff, you'll drive from Swan to use it. You don't maybe wanna go to the lake, it's a quick
Oh,
outing.
no.
You've got a playground right there.
People drive from Swan to Kenora to use their new one. So,
Mostly this would be running at the time of year where we have a green team, so we usually have some extra staff kicking around to do that little bit of maintenance at that point. But there would have to be
hopefully
something
you'd be able
that's
to
done.
run, like you say, June, July, August, maybe
Yeah.
into September.
You have to winterize the lines, and so,
Yeah, probably not September then.
well, like it doesn't freeze in September, but the question will come if we can't forget.
Yeah.
Right? It's a disaster to forget.
And I guess it'll take a while first to see when they're gonna use it. Maybe if nobody's gonna be using it in September, you might as well,
Yeah.
winterize it and then,
And lots of times the last few years, that first week of September is nice. So even if we aim for September 15th, you know, there'd be some reasonable amount of time where you can say, okay, listen. And we have the flexibility too, to say, oh, next week's forecast is for 25, let's leave that another week.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it doesn't mean we have to set in stone that every single year is done on August 31st.
But you, and I'm just thinking too, like you have the school in Benito, it's not a pool, so you don't need lifeguards, you don't need supervisors, it gives them another
No.
outing that they can
Daycare
go
and
do.
all that.
Yeah,
You
the
could even
daycare, I forgot about the daycare.
Potentially bring your
The
summer
daycare
playground
runs year
program back.
round, like,
yes, yeah.
so
'Cause that
there's lots of
would be big.
potential for it. Yeah, and I bet you those people would help raise money for it.
Councillor Burick, your
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, that's fine, that's, I support that.
Councillor McGregor? Are we interested in doing a resolution tonight to authorize
I'd say so.
in general
see
the
what the
project
grant
for
would be, yeah.
grant
Yeah.
writing?
I'd say so. Let's do it.
There's no age limit, eh? Like me and Brian can
Oh.
go
Yeah.
there and.
As long as you're
Use those
wearing,
water guns on
as
the-
long as you're wearing a bathing suit, not a speedo.
Well, you know, we ain't me and Brian, Neely's older than I am.
Just saying.
Brian wouldn't be able to take Tracy to Valentine.
And no cowboy boots.
Well, as long as it's not on February 14th or April 26th.
I don't think he'd be wearing it then.
February, we're going to skating. That is a nice thing, eh? Nice.
They are because,
Yeah.
like, all, like you're saying, all ages can use that.
No fear of drowning,
No.
can't swim.
On a hot day, you'll see old kids in there, you know, you'll
Yeah.
see.
Was Swan River talking about building that or no?
Yes, they were. They had lots
They had
of
the money.
help, like lots of people, but Swan,
Benito, it's $85,000.
because they had to help maintain it.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay, so have a resolution, try this on for size, see what you think. Whereas the municipality of Swan Valley West determines it would be in the best interest of the municipality to install and operate a splash park in Benito, and whereas several grant opportunities come up with little notice, therefore be it resolved that the council approves the splash park project to begin applying for matching funding with a final approval for the project budget to be provided at a future meeting. Does that work for everybody? It doesn't commit any money yet, but says, see what goes.
we're investigating.
We're investigating. Is there someone who'd like to move the resolution?
I'll move it.
Councillor, where are you on this? Burick and Councillor Kushniryk.
All the way from the north to the south.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried.
You didn't need any money amount in it, eh? Like the two different ones, the two different sizes, no?
Not yet. We'll do the grant applications based on probably the 400 and see if
Okay.
whatever they approve will help answer the question. If they approve a partial amount, then we'll be back here and say, well, this is all the grant is, what are we gonna do? We'll have to, there's gotta be a lot more soda done before a shovel goes in the ground. 6 10, library budget discussion. This won't be particularly long. The library is in the midst of budgeting. They're hoping to meet next week to finalize that. I wanted some direction from council for our library board reps, which is Councillor McGregor and myself. What would you like to see done with the budget? Last year, the budget was approximately $70,000 from Swan Valley West. I have done a draft budget for the library as part of my duties there. It is possible the library could maintain that same amount and operate without an increase. There has been some discussion at the board table of asking for up to a 4% increase on that amount. So I wanted you folks to tell the two of us, what are you thinking about money for the library? What are you thinking about the service that's being provided? Would you like to see changes? This is your chance to send the message back to the board of what we'd like to do there.
Do you have a head librarian?
We do not. The new budget provides for hiring one.
And with the
That's
new
30
budget
hours a week.
staying in the 70s,
Staying in the
because honestly, that budget has gone up about 10 grand every, like, started at 50, now we're at 70 already, and if you're thinking,
So I can share that when I look at other libraries, I did the budget for the
mind you,
Swan
we have
River
2 libraries.
Northwest Library as basically status quo. In the past, when they had done budgeting, remember last year the drama with budgeting, they were doing it all manually with paper and pen. It was taking forever. So I spent a couple hours and I made them an Excel spreadsheet. So now when they do budgeting, they simply fill in how many hours the library is open, how many hours each staff member works, and it calculates everything and brings it back. So I did that, I put in the hours they're using with the head librarian for 30 hours, and they have about $1,500 of space. So the budget comes to just under, it's $1,500 less than what it was last year. There was a calculation error last year of the share for each community. So we actually paid $2,000 more than we should have. So our share would go down to 68, the town would go up to whatever theirs is plus 2,000, just because the math wasn't done right on how to split the amount between us.
Is that based on per capita?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're paid the bigger share.
The Library Act gives us $8.50 per person per year from the provincial government, as long as council puts in at least another $8.50 a year. So if you read that as a library should operate for $17 a person a year, which is how I read it, because they pay half and we pay half, that should get your library, we're heavy by about $30,000 on the overall budget. When I look at the efficiency for how many staff are working, for how many, it's heavy. You know, where it is now, it would be hard for me to justify that going up anymore. And part of what concerned me about it, and we're going to discuss at the library board meeting, is there isn't any space in that budget for things to happen. So we hire a new head librarian, and we say, your job is to make this library amazing. You're going to make this happier, you're going to make it a great place, you'll get more users, you'll do all this stuff. And their first question is, okay, so how much money do I have to do this? And we say, 0, because we spend it all on wages. And that's a discussion the library board has to look at, is how do you expect change if you don't have a budget for change? But I can't in good conscience come here and say, oh, let's give them another $10,000, because I don't know if it really needs to be, you know, could there not be some more efficiencies found in?
well, and it already went 10, 10, 10, and was all staff wages.
I did compare it to some other libraries, and there's not a lot of libraries in the province that are the same. But I compared it to some that had 3 branches, which is kind of getting in the same ballpark. And for the most part, it was slightly heavy on spending here still compared to them. Some it wasn't. Some were spending about that same range on labor, but the labor percentage in the other places was lower.
The other thing you gotta remember too is that the cost of living is going up, and
Yeah.
you gotta keep these people alive, you know? So, is 10,000 too much? I don't know. That's the way the cost of living has gone, and the
They're
people
looking
that are
for
working.
4%, right, so $2,800.
Yeah.
So what if we did something where we said we'll give them the 70, see if they can live within their means or whatever, but like other things, we hold the 2,800 in our own little library, they can approach us for, if they have some
I'm on
recreational
the board,
programming.
you're gonna get approached.
Do they have
But if it's for something good, if it's for some good
You
programming or
recommend it
whatnot,
going up to 75,
Yeah,
I
because
was
they do
gonna
good
say
programming for
5%,
their
but
summer, they get paid.
yeah, and we need to get more of that, so. if
But
the
they
money's
do
there.
get grants for that as well. Like their summer programs are, if I remember correctly, are pretty well funded.
Last year there was some drama with that, but normally they are.
But normally, like they apply on time and they're funded, so there is things, but like like Brad says, if we're supposed to pay 68 and we end up paying the 70, well, we met halfway.
Councillor Neely had a point.
Well, I was gonna say, do they have a reserve account?
No,
No?
it got used.
Oh. But I mean, there is a reserve account if,
It's just empty.
like I'm saying.
But do
no
they
money.
still have
There's no money
monies
there.
that were
No, I
set to
know.
each library?
I'm not saying we use
Some
them,
of
but
it,
Yeah,
some
like the
capital
donation.
reserve donations, yeah. What they had, like at one point before this drama started, a couple of years ago, they had probably $100,000 in reserve just for a rainy day. And typically, we in the town don't pay until June. So that reserve would be used to pay everything until June when our money came in, and then it would be fine again. But what happened was they used it up and didn't know that it had to be replenished. So then when they hit the end of the year, then last year we got into this problem where suddenly they have no money in the bank anymore because we had $100,000 extra in the bank, so we spent it, not realizing it was reserve
Well, and
funds
they
that
also
should be
had a lot
saved.
more staff than they budgeted for.
at the beginning of the conversation, you said, should we go to 75? Right? So we're talking, what, 7%
The
increase?
discussion is 4%, the town is fairly, I don't even know if the town will go 4, which is why I want some direction from you folks, what you were thinking. Because the town is, their budget cycle is incredibly tight. And I don't know that they're willing to even consider 4%. I haven't, their council hasn't decided, but you know, we all talk, and I said, so what do you think, would you do 4%? And there isn't always yeses there.
I don't think anybody at this table has a problem with 4%.
Okay.
Like Byron said, everything's going up like crazy, wages, whatever, I mean,
And I think
Oh.
they can look at their staffing, and even with the 4%, then at least then you can have reserves building. That's the important thing.
that's what I meant, if we
Yeah, it's
would've paid
important,
the
it's important.
75,000 and they didn't need it, cause they didn't hire a head librarian,
But
or whatever happened.
then
just
build
put
up
it
your
in a
reserve a little
That's
bit
what my
for
question.
an emergency, or for, yeah,
Okay, so we'll take that message back.
yeah.
Specific to Benito branch, the hours have changed there a lot. It's open more now than it ever used to be. Is there any thoughts from council on that? I kind of like it's open more. but-
Yeah, well, I think I think it's well used. And there's only, like, that's minimal staffing,
That one person.
Leave it alone.
1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah. It's usually there's 1 hour a week, there's 2. So it gives them a chance to have a meeting together and discuss what's going on in the library to make sure they're on the same
Other
page.
than that, they sort of both share the hours then? Or- I see.
I think that's how they
Yeah.
doing it.
I know
Yeah.
it's a little slow that night, we're open late, but we're at least open
It's
late.
nice to have that because some people work and they would like to go get their books, and I think it's a great thing,
Okay.
as long as the worker doesn't mind.
Is there anything else that's on your minds about library that we should be taking to that next meeting?
What happens if Swan doesn't, if they only come up with 2%?
So under the Library Act, it gets messy. The library is to determine the budget and send it to council for approval. Council is supposed to approve it and just pay, but council obviously can say, no, we're not paying this. So essentially, if the library was to propose 4%, send it to both places, and either of the partners refuse to approve it, it would have to go back to library board for, oh my gosh, what do we do next? So the budget is hopefully coming out here in the next week or two, so it's time for that process. With us saying we're okay with 4%, I would suspect the library board's gonna aim towards that 4% and see what happens over at the town. And then if it's not okay, it's not that it would come from one and not the other, the budget would have to be reduced by that for both. So we wouldn't pay 4% extra in the town not, either both would pay it or both would not.
Okay.
Or we'd meet in the middle at 2% or something. And the library would have to make whatever decisions to live within the means from that. But we will take that discussion over there and talk about it some more. 6:11, RISE budget discussion. There was a RISE meeting last night, which is the Economic Development Group. They have about $150,000 in the bank, which is what they've been holding last year. They spent some of it on a few things. So there was a discussion last night about the Northern Woods and Water Route Guide. A letter came to this council as well looking for money, but the appropriate place for that is the group of municipalities working together. So RISE has approved spending the money. We will not be looking at it here because why would we spend it twice when we should be spending a share of it? So that's what's happening there. Everybody will be shared out. We are publishing the Business Opportunity Guide this year. So work on that's ongoing. We've got a lot of submissions already. There's a soft deadline of February 15th for some drafts to be done. That's going to be about a $30,000 touch this year. There's a trade show in Plymouth Lawn and a trade show in Thompson we plan to attend to talk about the valley and why you should live here. The practical version of that is the budget for this year is about $50,000 for Rise. The discussion last night was, do we spend the 50 over the 150 and go down to 100 and next year ask people for money? Or do we ask for this year? The board decided it would be appropriate for us to ask our municipal partners this year to split $50,000 between the 4 municipalities to fund Rise. And that would essentially keep Rise at the $50,000 in the bank for next year. Rise has historically been 50% assessment, 50% population. And I'd love to tell you it didn't come up last night, we didn't waste any time talking about it, but it wouldn't be a municipality for meeting without it being discussed. The consensus of the board in the end of the discussion was to not monkey with things. That's what people were happy with before. Why would we start changing it? So at $50,000, our share would be approximately $16,000, maybe $16,500. I don't have the exact numbers here, but it'd be close to that. The town's share would be around 18 or so, a little more than ours because their population's higher. Mountain would be putting in around $4,500. Manitoba's Bozeman would be around $10,000. Would be how the $50,000 would shake out. So I want to see if anyone's horribly opposed to that. This'll, if we're not just instantly saying no, it'll go forward into our budgeting process on the economic development line as the recommendation. We'll get the exact number firmed up. And then we'll look at it as we approve our budget. I want you to have a heads up on that.
That's the fairest way to,
I think so.
in my mind.
There was a discussion last night, and so this is not what we're doing, but here's the discussion. It was brought up by a member of management of one of the municipalities that was in attendance last night that they felt we should be splitting everything in the valley on a different formula. And they suggested a percentage of total spend. So the way that would work, we have a budget of say $4 million, the town has an $8 million budget, Thomas Bozeman might be $4 million, Mountain might be $2 million. We'd add that all up, we'd divide it out, and the town would pay twice as much as we do because they spend twice as much as we do on everything else. The folks from the town looked pretty sick at that suggestion, as you can imagine. And I said, the problem is the town is urban. So they're paying for policing, they're paying for things that the rest of us don't pay for, so it skews the numbers. So the discussion went into then creating a very complex formula that removed from the calculation all of these one-ofs that each municipality does that the others don't. And it was getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And I said, stop, we do not have 3 years to debate this. But there is an alternate thought out there from one municipality of how it could be done. The town is never going to agree to that. And I'm not sure they should, because it would be hard to pitch that Swan Valley West should pay half of what the town pays on everything. The town's simply not going to say yes.
Especially when our assessment's higher than theirs.
Exactly. So, it was discussed though. Anything else on that? Can we move on? 612, semi-repair discussion. This is picking up from the Public Works report. Councillor Kushniryk, can you tell us what you found about different trucks? The question here is, do we replace the engine of the truck? It's not repairable, or do we buy a different truck?
Basically, the question boils down to fix our truck, we're looking at 30 to 35 grand to redo that motor. A lot of that truck has gone over and replaced and new. It's spec'd fairly heavy, so to get something comparable, spec'd the same. Scott's been looking through some trucks as we find them, and we're looking at $70,000, $75,000, $80,000, and then you've got the variables of what don't we know about it. So most of the issues with our current truck are cosmetic, minus the engine. So do we do a motor, or do we look for a different truck?
What's the cab like on that truck?
I'm told it might need a seat. Are you talking rust-wise or just overall?
Well, I meant just overall condition. That makes a big difference.
Fair, good, bad. Everything needs a little bit of TLC, he said, but overall it's a good truck. They feel it's a good truck to keep yet.
Well, you can buy these trucks on Ritchie Brothers from anywhere from, say, 30 to 60,000. Okay. What year is that in the
06, I believe, 06.
And we're gonna rebuild, or better to rebuild our own block, at least we know what we got, right?
That's kind of what I think, and Ritchie Brothers is,
Like how many?
You buy a rebuilt motor, I mean, you don't know, that block could be, you don't know where it's been,
Yeah.
1 year warranty, but after that, what?
yeah, what did it have before it went down, why did it
That's
go
right.
down, it's,
Yeah, the head's any good, is there any cracks?
Who
that
did the
you have to
rebuild?
see on the block, and, you know, just
You know.
stuff like that.
it was some guy's first rebuild, you know, you don't know what it is. But
I would,
There's some-
I would say we rebuild that engine.
there's some pressure too, because, you know, if we're gonna rebuild, we wanna say so now, so it can be done and ready for gravel hauling and stuff like that. We leave it too long, it'll be done late in summer, and
That block will get inspected and everything, eh? Like, make sure it's not got a crack in it
Yeah,
or
I
something like that, eh?
I would sure hope they're gonna go right over it, yeah.
About for 35 grand,
Yeah,
Better, yeah.
take a picture of it.
Councillor McGregor, your thoughts?
I say we rebuild what we have.
Hey, Councillor,
Rebuild what we have.
we will get that direction to Public Works to start on that process and get it done. 613, RCMP GIS discussion. This is going to come up at G4, and I wanted us to talk about it a bit here. We've discussed this a bit before here. I believe we were in camera last time. This time we're going to bring it out to the open and have more discussion on it. So I'll bring you an update. This is what you're going to hear at the G4 meeting, but we won't have a chance to talk amongst ourselves. So I wanted to get some direction from you folks already, if we can't all make it, so we can provide some direction back to the town. The price of GIS is about $625,000 a year for a minimum of 3 years. There has been some preliminary discussion with the Minister of Public Safety in Manitoba, which is the Minister of Justice, that's a better term for it. They are not interested in a pilot project for any one municipality. However, never before have a group of 4 municipalities proposed a pilot project for a GIS unit that would cover multiple municipalities at the same time. They are willing to discuss at length providing some funding for that. There has also been a discussion on the rebatable portion of policing costs. The town of Swan River, as we know, pays for policing. They receive a 30% refund on that amount. It appears that the GIS cost also would be eligible for the 30% refund. They're working to confirm that rebate is there, so that would bring it from $625 down to that $400,000 range. So we would be splitting a lot less. If we were splitting based on the high end, who's still my paper?
I don't believe this time.
If we were splitting the 625, it's approximately $67 a person. The town of Swan River's share would be $269,000 and change, basically $270. Our share would be $184,000, Minnetonka's Bozeman $106, Mountain $65,000 at the highest end. If it's lower, it would go down
That's
proportionally.
6 1/4 a year.
That's the 6
That's
1/4.
without any funding.
Per year.
That's without any funding, without the 30%,
Yeah.
without anything from the province. The discussion with the province preliminarily was for a 5-year program, for them to commit to their funding for 5 years. So if they did that, this is just spitballing, they might pay the extra 20%, so it was at half of what it was. So we might be splitting 312,500. We had previously discussed that we were quite willing to talk about funding this program with the town. I have discussed it with other heads of council. We've had meetings on this. Their support is not as strong as ours was when we discussed it, but they do have support. They haven't made any final decisions, neither have we. But I wanted to seek some input from you as we go on with this now. Do we still feel strongly that we want to be part of this? We had discussed it at this higher amount, so anything better than that is a benefit to us, obviously. The lower we can get the number to. But I want to just come back here. What happened at a couple of the other councils is they kind of had the brief first discussion, and then when they had a second discussion, there was some change of heart amongst some members. So what's everybody here thinking right now about this? Councillor Neely.
Just because I do all the talking, I don't have to go first. I'm in favor of it. Everybody in our municipality is affected, whether you live in Alpine or up by Don Urbans. I mean, you come to Swan River, people are scared to get out of their car to go to the co-op store.
Exactly.
And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
You know, like
We've
what?
seen it first.
In the middle of the day. Like, why would you?
Well, and to that point, I was at the grocery store the other day, and there were some of our citizens there who saw me and asked if I would come out and watch them in their car, because they were afraid to leave the
I
grocery
believe
store
that.
to go to their
And
car.
she actually, on social media, she she made mention of that and thanked him for like watching so she could actually get into her car because she was scared.
Yeah, you don't know who's getting in the car with you.
Well, no, someone did approach her and
Yeah.
she told them to leave her alone and yeah, it's just out of hand already.
You know, that some people are.
You don't
very
want to come
vulnerable
to
and
town
they're
at dark
scared.
and
I mean,
some of us have to.
Even Sunday, I came out of our building, and there's 4 people behind the building, and one of them had a chunk of pipe.
Yeah.
I don't imagine he was going plumbing.
Right up.
Well, I thought, hey, if you're gonna come do some plumbing, I'll let you in, but I don't think that's what his intention was. Thoughts from other folks, what's everybody else think?
Like Councillor Neely, I'd support that too. I support that from the beginning. And like you say, we're covering the whole municipality, south to north.
The whole valley. I mean,
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
valley.
Where you're
The whole
from.
valley, yeah, yeah. But no, I think we should pay our share and
Plus, people out of the valley, that come, yeah, maybe some of them, like, they know about it too, people from Saskatchewan, and, you know, like, I mean, we're not responsible for
We're not
them, but we're
attracting
not,
business.
you know, who wants to come here if they're gonna get mugged, you know?
Councillor Kushniryk?
I'm all for it. I think we gotta clean up or at least try. If you don't try, you have no reason to complain.
The somewhat confirmed attendee list for the G8 meeting has some of our other municipal partners appearing they're going to attend this time. And I know the discussion is ongoing with their councils as well, if they're willing to also pay some towards this. And again, if we get any money from them, certainly that would help. And their citizens are as affected as ours. They come to Swan River to shop.
You mean people out of the valley?
From our more extended municipal family
Oh, okay,
in Sapatoya,
okay.
There has been some preliminary discussions. Nothing's written in stone by anybody,
Yeah,
right? But,
good for them.
well, they're folks, they have people that come here to shop that are as scared
Go to the
of what's
hospital,
going to happen.
you know.
Yeah. Okay. With you and them, I will represent fairly strongly that G8 meeting when it's discussed that Swan Valley West thinks this must happen or we
Yes.
must all pay for it and just get on with it.
Yeah.
The
We
sooner the
can't
better.
keep talking about it's not getting any
Somebody
better.
got there to bull by the horn here.
Okay.
Rattle them down.
614, 105 Second Avenue Northwest, Swan River. A gentleman who owns this property had a long visit with me. He's been to see me several times, the most recent of which was on this weekend. This is Mr. Sokola's property. So some people that were on council beforehand will recall that there was drama. So 2 houses. I do have, finally, we got the records for this. We couldn't find them in our office, but we did find someone with a copy of them all. So I have the actual original permit applications that he signed. The question has always been, what did they say? Both of them say house. They don't say single family, they don't say dual family, they say move house onto there. Both of them are approved and signed by the development officer as you can bring a house and put it there. Where the drama began, 2 pieces of drama, the foundations weren't built in the right spot. That is water under the bridge and settled. So previous council chose that the property line needed to be moved between the 2 houses to better center them on the lot. That cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Honestly, looking through this file, I would not have voted to make the poor man do that, but it's done, it's moved, it's paid for. That isn't what we're here to discuss tonight. What we are here to discuss is house number 105 is currently a duplex, and there are people living in half of the duplex. But we have prevented him from having people living in the other half of the duplex because the zone is RS15, which, while it was never indicated on the permits by anybody to anybody, cannot have a duplex in it. And so the question, of course, becomes one of fairness, and with the current events in the world where we're feeling pressure from both the federal and provincial government to not arbitrarily limit availability of housing, we have half a duplex sitting empty that has been sitting empty for several years. Mr. Sakola would like us to give some consideration to if we have any desire to move on this. And certainly if any of you want to take it in camera, we can have a much more in-depth discussion there. But this is something that the request has come. My only commitment to Mr. Sakola is that we would discuss this as a council, as a group, and we would offer an opinion, not necessarily a decision, but an opinion on if there was any movement to be had, if we still felt that this was how it was going to be, and so on. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss in public about this? We'll refer it to in camera for the rest of it for everybody. So done. 615, Swan Lake Watershed Board Concerns, provided to you tonight by Mr. Burick, is a paper that looks like this, which is a list of the Swan Lake Watershed Board. Here's what happened. Elections were held. Swan Lake Watershed holds elections each year. So on the board, we start with sub-districts. There are 4 of them: the Roaring River Fable Creek Sub-District, the Upper Swan River Lobstick Creek Sub-District, Lower Swan River Sinclair Creek, and Woody River Birch River. These regulations are prescribed by the province. Each municipality that has that area in their municipal confines appoints 1 member of council and 1 citizen representative to sit on the board. So in many cases, we have somebody on all but the Lower Swan River, because that doesn't flow through our park. But with the Roaring River, the Upper Swan River, Woody River, we have representatives. So typically speaking, we have 1 councillor and 1 representative. How they determine the main board is they hold an election. So within each sub-district, the people on it vote for someone who becomes the chair of the sub-district. That chair then goes on to the main watershed board, where most of those decisions are made. Much like we have committees and then we have council as a whole tonight, our committees may recommend something, but they don't have the power to make a decision on their own. Same thing in watershed, the committees recommend it up to the main board for approval. Typically speaking, Swan Valley West is the largest contributor to the Swan Lake Watershed District. We have the largest amount of area managed by the Swan Lake Watershed District. Last year, we did have a representative on the main board. This year, we do not. During the elections, 2 members called in a vote ahead of the meeting. So they weren't present for voting. They both voted against our member being on the main board. They selected someone else. That has caused, at the very least, some hard feelings. Some questions about the voting process, about how exactly that goes down, if you should be at the meeting or not. The regulations don't speak to that, so it's likely fine either way. There's no rules that I can find that say anything. The concern is that even though we are the largest contributor, we now have no representation on the decision-making body. At current, I believe Minnetonka's Bozeman has, is it 3? Mountain has 2, and the town of Swan River has 2, and we have 0. I did have some preliminary discussions with some other members of council, not with the board itself. The board has the authority to appoint an additional member. Previously, the arm of Mountain did not have a member elected to the board, so the board chose fit to appoint someone from council, so they were still represented in the decision-making process. So perhaps the easiest solution to this would be for us to communicate with the watershed district and ask that they appoint a member of our council to the main board, even though none were elected through the election process. Other options are obviously to leave it as it is. And there is also a question come up about our citizen representatives. So at our last meeting in December, we approved committee appointments for this year, and those committee appointments are not the people who are actually at Watershed. So there is some question about that. We have 1 citizen representative that is one of the people that voted against our own member, who we can find no record of having ever appointed to the Watershed Board. The Watershed believes they're a member, we do not. We think as council never appointed them. That is something we will research a little more to confirm, but then we will be here to ask council for who they would like to appoint to that board, because it isn't acceptable, no matter who it is or how it happened, that someone got to be our appointee without our council actually having appointed, because that is our decision to make. So depending on what happens there, obviously, we get to choose more that representative. It likely wouldn't change the outcome of the vote though. And I don't think it would be in good taste to say, well, we're gonna fire our representatives and get new ones so they vote the way we want.
No.
But we should have a representative duly appointed. We shouldn't have someone there that didn't have an appointment. And we may well put that same person there but we should actually appoint them here. And
Well,
make
and
the
we should,
decision
we
official.
should clear up our list,
Yes.
if that's who we want appointed. Our list should say that's who's appointed, because it doesn't.
So I'm looking for some thoughts from council tonight on how they would like us to proceed, if you want it left alone, if you want us to suggest strongly that it would be in their interest to appoint one of our members, and if so, who would we like appointed, or any other option you can think of. Thoughts?
We should have a representation on there, because like I say, we're the biggest fundraiser, like, pay the highest amount of money to that organization. We're the biggest land mass, and should have a say. This way, right now, we have nothing.
Who else's thoughts? Councillor Neely?
Are we talking
The main
one
board.
of the three of us that are already on there? To
That would
appoint
be
them to the board?
preferable, but it doesn't have
Or
to be.
one of the other three remaining councillors and yourself?
I think it'd be one of the three of us there that are on that sub-district already.
Well, let's just appoint Brian. He was on there before. Let's just appoint him.
Well, I don't think we can appoint him. I think we're trying to ask
Whatever.
them
We'll
if they will.
strongly suggest it would be good to appoint
Yeah,
someone,
to
but,
appoint one more.
because I think we should have someone there.
I do
Well, yeah,
too. We need to.
Spending a lot of money there.
And for myself, I would suggest it be either one of these, because I'm still learning, like.
just learning too. This is my first go around.
I've been there since it started.
Well, then, there you go.
for a
I
while.
mean, Brian should be back.
And he seems to like it, so.
Okay?
What is it?
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
There's a couple people haven't chimed in, I see nods there. So we will communicate with them. We will ask them to consider at their very next meeting appointing Mr. Burick to the board. If they should choose not to do that, the discussion will return here.
Okay.
We will further do it. We will also, as a separate issue, determine our appointments and clean that up and be back here to properly appoint people or have a discussion of who we wish to appoint.
You say there's somebody on here that we never appointed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we just for matter of good
I was thinking of it, but he's never there anyway.
So you should get in the vote.
we should make sure that we actually appoint people that vote for us, just because it'd be nice that way. Anything else on Swan Lake Watershed? We'll go to 616, social media concerns. This came up with management from another council. They were polling several of us, so I wanted to let you know the polling had happened and what my response was. They have become strongly concerned that there's a social media following that is painting their council in less than a perfectly happy light. And they feel that it is a matter of time before the same social media folks begin attacking other councils and seriously questioning what we do. The question was asked if Swan Valley West would want to participate in some planning for how to mitigate and perhaps disrupt, stop, insert any word you like there, the expression of those members of the public on their thoughts of our councils. So my response was fairly simple. Oh, I have a plan for this. We're politicians, get used to it. Our job as elected politicians is to take criticism from people, be it on social media or a letter to the editor or a letter sent to council, as long as it's not threatening and doesn't, become a personal attack about how we cut our hair. If they have a concern of how we do our job as a council, it is, in my opinion, their complete God-given right to be loud about it and say they don't agree with what we're doing. The second part I suggested was that perhaps it would be worth reading the materials, because sometimes they might be right. Many times, as we've seen from some of the stuff we've been getting, it's not necessarily something we can deal with as a council. We have very little control over the United Nations here. But some of the concerns that come up from some members of the public are very valid concerns. I've read through some of them. There's some stuff that absolutely, occasionally they're right, and we should learn from it. We should do a better job. So my response was essentially that we weren't interested in participating in trying to find a way to limit the free speech of people.
How do you do that?
I can only just imagine.
I don't know, how can you? You can't.
But the question was asked, I gave a response. I thought it was a serious enough question. You should be aware it was asked and how it was answered. So unless somebody wants to form some group to try and censor the internet, I think we just have to remember that we all chose to be here And with that comes not only people saying we do a good job, but also people saying sometimes we don't. And we have to accept that and move on.
Usually 10 to 1.
Usually. Anything further on that? We have no correspondence that was addressed specifically to council tonight. If it comes saying council, it generally comes here. If it just says Swan Valley West, it's normally dealt with by staff. So as you can imagine, lots of correspondence comes in, but there was nothing specific that said this needs to go to council, save what Mr. Neely brought us earlier tonight. And this does specifically ask for it to go to council, but it didn't make the agenda. So everyone was provided a copy of an email from Mr. Anderson. We had a discussion last meeting about our alarm system. Mr. Anderson and our administration are of different viewpoints on the same issue. I can report it was resolved. The question was, did Mr. Anderson fail to return phone calls to come and update our alarm system? He says he never got the message. We say we left a message. That's water under the bridge. The alarm system has been updated. It is working perfectly fine, and we continue to have service with Perry Security. But he did send this to the council so you could read his response, so that you heard both sides of the story. So that is there for you. If anyone's desperately interested, I don't know if we're gonna put it on the agenda, but if somebody wants a copy, they can call the
I just
office and
thought
get a copy.
everybody could know, you know.
So be it. Yep. Anything else for correspondence? We'll go to unfinished business 8-1. Oh, this'll be. This is what people are buying tickets for this meeting.
Yeah, just look at.
So we have third reading of bylaw 010523. I certainly intend to settle this tonight. Hopefully everybody's got that. We will start with discussion before we get to reading this resolution, because we have the resolution prepared for third reading. Councillor Burick took up our invitation last meeting to do some research on things. He's provided to all of us some notes on what other municipalities are being paid. So as a refresher here, we are looking to change our indemnity bylaw to clarify language, is what we started as, for when we get paid, when we don't, where we can go without permission, where we have to get special permission. So that bylaw is attached here, people can see it. This is still the proposed after second reading. So we have the ability to make changes tonight. Last meeting, we had a discussion of whether or not it would be appropriate to change the monetary values that council members are paid. Right now, we receive $23 an hour for things that are not these main meetings. If we go to committee meetings, special meetings, things like that, we also receive an amount per month. The head of council receives $1,125. Deputy head of council receives $835. Councillors receive $805. As we heard last meeting, those amounts haven't been technically updated in over 10 years. So there was a change made when CRA changed their accounting practices that made it so some of it used to be tax-free. So at that time, the amount of tax was figured out on the portion that became taxable was added on. So the amounts did go up, but the actual take-home pay did not. That's been static for some time. So Councillor Burick, do you want to run through these? You wrote the notes. Do you want to talk about them? Do you want me to read through them? What's your preference?
Well, no, I give everybody a sheet, everybody's got the sheets, there's 2 papers. And I called the 3 different municipalities, and you can see the numbers there that I marked down what each one gave me. And if you have any question, you can go ahead and ask me. There's, and then I give a second page, like was just mentioned just now, what our present indemnity is, and I just put a proposal there, but I mean that's up to discussion and to change too. That was just what I thought would be appropriate with the other municipalities that I had checked out with, so.
So for the benefit of those watching at home, I'll run through the numbers.
Okay.
Just because they can't see these papers
Okay.
we're looking at. So the town of Swan River, the mayor's $1,500, deputy mayor $1,250, councillors are $1,160. Their hourly rate is $24.56 a day, a daily rate of $200, half day is $100. But they have some additional rules. They have a maximum of 25 meetings a year for committee meetings, and it actually is more complex than that. There's a bunch of additional ifs, ands, ors, and buts on what counts, what doesn't. So it's not as clear cut as here, where it's just 2 meetings we are in the base and everything else we get paid for. So there is some more details in the town stuff. There on McDoff and the Reeve receives $12.50, councillors are $9.40, hourly is $25, daily $200, cellular $60. Minnetonka's Bozeman, Reeve is $1,200, councillors are $1,000, hourly is $24, cellular is $600.
60.
60.
60, sorry. Boy, I wish there was a cell phone.
I'm moving it.
Yeah.
I'd be upgrading.
Municipality of Swan Valley West, the proposal from Councillor Deputy Burick is $1,400 for Reeve, Deputy Reeve $10.50, councillors $1,000, hourly to $25, daily at $200, cell phone for $600, and
60.
perhaps, sorry, 60.
Shoosh!
You should see my cell phone.
I like
when
that
keep
one.
saying 600. And missed meeting, this is a substantial change, so it was $80 if you miss a regular meeting, this would propose it to be $250 fee if you miss a regular meeting. Except for canceled meetings or medical family with a letter. Medical for yourself or for family
Yeah,
with a letter.
family, your medical or family medical with letter, there wouldn't.
Do any of the other ones have a missed meeting?
Yeah, I wondered.
Most of them
No,
do.
no, they,
Not every one though. I don't know if these ones do. I know Roblin does when I checked it.
okay,
It was in that $100 range for a missed meeting. We didn't used to have, if you go back in history, there was no such thing. That came around in that 10, 11 years ago
Yeah.
type time frame, because the thought was you're essentially getting paid $23 an hour to be here for 4 hours tonight. So if you're not here, you should be deducted that amount. And it's 23 now, you can tell from the 80, it used to be 20 before that
Yeah.
adjustment was made. So it was 4 hours at $20, you don't come to the meeting, you lose the $80 because you weren't here and everybody else was. Some municipalities see that as a punishment. We'll charge you far more than you would have been worth for those 4 hours to encourage you to come. You know, so if we went up to the 250, we'd be in that punishment range. If you didn't come to a meeting, well, you missed out on providing your opinion, you missed out on representing the people that count on you, you should be punished for not coming.
So, candies?
This is something that each and every one of you is going to share opinions on tonight, even if I have to drag it out of you. Who would like to go first with their opinions on Mr. Burick's proposal?
I'm not gonna start, somebody else go. Let's hear somebody else.
Councillor Blosha.
Well, I think the 250 is a little excessive, but for missed meetings, sometimes you got a life.
So are you, what would you?
Well, like
stay
you
at
say, if,
80 or?
no, it could go to the 100, like you say, if that was what you were, if you were moving up to the 24 or whatever, or the 20, I don't know what. You don't have a proposal for the
Hourly is 25.
hourly
is-
of
Proposal
25.
25.
Yeah, so then, like you say, average
hours,
is
that's-
4 hours or 5 hours. If you go to 120, 100, 125, but 250, that's a little excessive. Some people do
What are your thoughts on the rest?
it equal. We're worth just as much as these people. Anyway,
I jokingly said earlier, if you all want to
I-
pay what the CAO of Minnetonka's is making, I'd be okay with that too.
no, that's,
But I don't
that's
think
not-
we can afford it. Councillor Kushniryk, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree on the 250. I think that's too high. When I did look at some other places, some of them have allowances like they make it sound like if you miss a meeting because you're out of town or you're sick or anything, they forgive it. If you miss a meeting because you choose to go to a birthday party or a dance
Yeah.
recital, you're gonna pay. You're gonna get a docked, right? Because yeah, you're not gonna schedule your vacation around this meeting. You're not gonna schedule getting sick around this meeting.
So just to be clear, if you stayed home from a council meeting because someone was delivering a load of gravel for you to landscape your front lawn, would you be deducted the money?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
You're choosing.
or if it was your husband's birthday and you stayed home, deduct it.
Yeah, you consciously
Read it.
chose.
That was
He's
one.
worth it, eh?
what's more important, your husband's birthday or the?
Carrie.
I'm just
He's worth it,
saying.
right?
I'd also a clause maybe so Valentine's is double.
Yeah.
What about if work gets in the way?
Yeah, well,
I mean, your
that's,
day job, in my case,
that's what
my
I
night
mean,
job.
like,
What about that?
you all have
Yeah,
other
it's-
jobs.
It's legitimate. It's not your choosing. That's your livelihood. You know.
I'm just saying, I don't
Yeah.
care one way or the other.
That's why I
but
thought,
might
well,
come
the
across.
100 is fair, like, if that's.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned some other municipalities, $100.
Yeah.
Roblin, he said.
He says
Roblin.
he's going by what their
Of
hourly
the ones that
rate.
do it, some do it basically based on 4 hours of the hourly rate, others do it based on a punishment
I see,
amount.
okay.
So the
Yeah.
question is, do you want to punish or not? If it's not punishment, the appropriate, if we go to $25 an hour, would be $100, because you're missing 4 hours of work time.
Well, I haven't
So you
seen
don't get
anybody
paid for
here
that.
repeatedly miss meetings on purpose, like,
No.
miss meet, just because you didn't feel like coming, you always had a legitimate everybody had a legitimate reason for not
Yeah.
Yeah, but like,
attending, yeah, it's not like,
in my case,
like, oh, I don't
have
feel like
a
going.
night job. okay,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Parts of the year, right? Not
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time, but sometimes I can't get here, there's just no way.
yeah.
So, I mean, if you wanna knock me $100 or $250, I really don't care, but I mean,
I
may
would think
happen
the
with
same thing
somebody
if it was
else and-
harvest or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's,
Yeah.
you gotta
That's it.
do it, it's
Yeah.
not a choice.
Trying, yeah.
guy's got $28 bushel canola out there, he's not coming here for 3 or 4 hours, I mean.
Well, and at 250, using these numbers, that's essentially you give up 25% of everything else you did all month because you couldn't make one night.
Yeah,
So it's,
yeah.
it doesn't,
I just thought it was a little
balance.
excessive.
So
I would go with 100, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I would
$100,
agree to that as well.
Whatever.
So I want to nail this down a bit, because eventually someone's gotta get this on paper. Is the discussion $100 no matter why you missed? Or is it $100 if you don't have a good reason?
No, I think no matter why you missed, and then there's no,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're not
Then
here, you're
it's
not.
fair,
Yeah.
fair across the
everybody,
board.
yeah, yeah.
No matter why you missed it, you can't, just the way.
Yeah.
You weren't
Well,
here,
right
you
now
shouldn't
it's no
get paid
matter
for
what.
it. If you weren't here, take those hours away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless you're sick. or-
No, but like I say, for
But I mean,
medical,
yeah.
for medical, like, he can't help it.
right now,
Yeah, I
if
know.
you're not here, you're not.
Sick and.
Exactly.
Leave it simple like that, it's simple.
Yeah,
Keep it
right,
simple.
right.
Even if you got a medical, Brett?
Yeah, like you made your medical appointment to when the meeting was, if you could help it, unless it was emergency, but,
So it could be emergency too, eh?
but I mean, fair is fair, you weren't here, don't get paid.
Yeah, I
Okay?
guess.
I don't know.
Unless,
Can you put it council's discretion?
Ah.
Where we decide if it was bad or
We'll
not?
have some drama here.
we're gonna change that figure to minus 100, right?
Okay, so how about the council meeting? Because I think
Well,
we
that's
council
have a
meetings.
council meeting,
That's dealt with elsewhere in the bylaw. So
Yeah,
if-
council
unless
meetings in
there
the
was a
bylaw,
meeting,
it
it
wasn't
doesn't, like,
deducted.
if we say there's no meeting, there's no meeting that you missed. You
Yeah.
only counts if you miss a
but I
meeting
mean, we
that
were
existed.
deducted this last time, weren't we?
That's why
That
we're
was a
changing the
mistake.
bylaw.
Well, that's been corrected, I think.
Yeah, the new bylaw is very clear on that. Okay,
Well,
Councillor
this-
Neely, do you have more thoughts?
This just gets us in the ballpark of the other 3
Being equal.
municipalities here.
I've seen other ones when they pass it, they do their next 4 years or 5 years. It's laid out, so it's an automatic cost of living or whatever increase, so there is no shock like this, right?
Yeah,
And then next councils will probably continue that, this is your increase.
Tie it to like cost of consumer price index or something.
Yeah, I forget what they were going up like, you'd go up $50 the following year for each one or whatever, or however you wanted to do it.
The town of Swan River, their committee meetings are included in their,
no, not
No,
anymore.
not anymore.
they used to be. but-
used to
Yeah,
be,
that's
but
what
not
I
anymore.
asked the same question.
That's why he told me maximum of 25 meetings, after that you're on your own.
They got sick of us teasing them. 'Cause we
Committee
were-
meeting.
Maximum
No,
of
cause their
25?
committee meetings are paid for by the hour.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what.
for a
I mean.
maximum of
Yeah,
25.
but they never used to be,
Never
years
used to.
ago.
They
I don't know if
updated
it's
it
changed, but that's what he told me.
a few months ago, they finally completed that. They worked on it for quite a while. And there's a maximum of committee meetings, but there's also some meetings that aren't seen as committee meetings. They're different kind of meetings. There's a maximum of them as well. And then there's also a certain number of days a year that you can appear for council at something. There's a limit to how many of those. And it looks like a lawyer wrote it. It's hard to.
And they'll still be $100 a month, more or less.
Councillor Zbirun, your turn.
I'm good with what Carrie and Terry and Brad said, that's fine, that works for me.
Councillor McGregor, you don't get off that easy. Come up with at least 3 sentences. You feel?
Come on.
Paragraphs, no paragraphs here.
25 words or less.
I was just looking at the numbers of the other municipalities, we're not that far off the map here, so. I think I agree with this as it is, but I agree with the $100 for this meeting. As
Okay,
we-
so I think everybody's good with $100, that's what I gathered. Okay. Everything else on the proposal is okay. We're good with all of that. Our CAO is dutifully updating the bylaw. Because of the topic here, rather than passing this saying that as for the changes, we're going to get the changes in here, we're going to print it, we're going to look at it again tonight to make sure it's what we agreed to.
And I forgot to put down here, but it should be increased for the, is it the lead? The lead committee?
They set their own.
Yeah, they set their own.
Yeah, we
Oh,
don't
they-
set that. They have.
Oh, they did that on their own? Okay, because I didn't include that in here. Okay. No,
I was
that's
gonna
fine.
recommend they take their council member down to like $10 a month.
Yeah, if the council member gets a
He
raise,
doesn't
they
get paid anyway.
He only
can
gets,
just pay the
he
light
only gets
committee.
paid for going to the, it's fine, just
Like they
leave
pay
it.
double already.
It's not
Yeah,
going
yeah. You probably get.
Okay, we're going to move on if everybody's okay. I believe we've captured everybody's view. Nobody has something in their heart that they didn't share. Our CA will keep typing while we go talk about 8.2. This is the AR8 service agreement. So you may recall, we've been having this discussion for several meetings. We've had a delegation on this. This is the tire-derived aggregate. So the service agreement came last time. We noted that there was a spot to put a price in it, which was a bit of a surprise to us, given that the gentleman had explained several times that the product was provided free of charge. He subsequently called me to have a discussion, and I said, well, we can't sign anything until it says what the price is, because it certainly doesn't say a price in this. I'm the wrong thing here, I can't seem to get that email up. Does anyone else? Oh, there's the email. It's just backwards on the thing. So the service agreement is the email is the service agreement.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the email came saying, I talked to Reeve and told him the cost to the RM is $10 per metric ton. And I'll have weigh slips for every load to bring into your sit, as well as tire count for all the tires you have at your landfills, because you get 50 cents a tire from Tire Stewardship Manitoba for storing tires in the program. Remember, you're able to get a 50/50 manshake grant from TSM, which will cut the cost of processing cost even further. And that was news to me. Did anybody else here from all of those presentations get the view that we were paying for this material? I certainly didn't. The word free crossed his lips many times, if I recall, that this would be provided free of charge. So I reached out to some people to further investigate what exactly is up. So Tire Stewardship Manitoba indicates they only have one licensed tire processor in the province. So I called the licensed tire processor and asked for Peter, because clearly if there's only one licensed processor, he must work there. Surprisingly, they didn't have a Peter. So that begat some further discussion. There is actually now 2 licensed processors in Manitoba. Peter is one of them, and then there's the other guys. And the other guys is who we've always dealt with before, because they've been the only licensed processor for a while. They provided a history lesson, which I will provide to council, with the caveat that while some of it may seem defamatory, I'm only repeating what they said. So sue them, not us. They indicated that several years ago there were 2 competing companies. The gentleman, Peter, that we've been dealing with was one company, they were the other. As time went on, Peter sold his business to another business, who ultimately sold it to a third business. The third business sold Peter's business to the other recycler. So they now own both their own business and what used to be Peter's business. Peter then left the industry and was no longer doing tire recycling. He met with them 6 to 8 months ago with some ideas he thought they would like to have in their business. They declined. He then obtained a license to be a tire recycler processor again and has started up business. To their knowledge, not mine, he has not yet processed a single tire as his new business. He's currently looking for people that would like to have him take over the processing and provide the service, which is what he's been pitching to us. He may have not mentioned the part where he hasn't done this before. So his proposal is to have a mobile shredder that would come to the valley, shred the tires here. The other place has a shredder both at Asher and in Winnipeg, where they make tire-derived aggregate. They spoke highly of the product. They said tire-derived aggregate is a really good idea. Yes, you should use it for frost boils. They highly recommend it. And they would be glad to sell it to us. They would sell it to us for $1 to $2 a yard if we would pay. If we would not pay, the price would be $0 a yard, because they must get rid of it. However, we would have to pay the trucking. About 20 yards on the trailer, about $800 a trip, it gets pretty expensive. They suggested that if we were looking to do this with Peter, they understand that we can't afford to haul it from them because it's cost prohibitive. They get that we could do it someplace else for cheaper, but they questioned strongly why we would pay anything for it if they're willing to provide it for free. They felt that it would be silly of the municipality to enter into an agreement with any person to pay for it when the general going rate is $0. The reason it's $0 is because when you buy a tire, you pay for recycling. That money then ends up paying for these people to do this, and the tire-derived aggregate is essentially a waste product they have to get rid of. And it has to go someplace. He said very bluntly, if we find someone that's willing to pay it for us, that's profit to us, extra profit. But if no one pays for it, that's fine, we just carry on and give it away because it's gotta go. And he says sometimes we're so desperate to get rid of it, we'll even subsidize the freight. If our yard is full and we've got no room to store more, we'll pay $50 towards a load just to get it out of here. So,
Are these the people that come and pick the tires up at the landfill there?
yes. He also suggested, given his personal experience with this vendor, that any agreement be only and exclusively in writing. That no verbal agreements be considered. So, we're here for direction again. Do we want to do this at all? Question number one. If 4 of you shake your head yes at that, do you want us to pursue? I'm not seeing 4 heads shaking yes. Is there anybody that thinks we should do this anymore?
No, I didn't think so in the middle of all this, because it kept changing, and first it was a zero amount, then it was,
Yeah.
all of a sudden the contract comes, well, there's money, and,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
much money? No, this is
Yeah,
not.
it's very confusing. Is this guy gonna put it on the road for us? He's gonna charge us 10 per metric ton, 10 cents, $10, 10 million, how much? You know,
First he was
like
gonna
10.
teach us how to put it on the road.
My
free.
thoughts are, if we can get this stuff for free, we can spend a tank of fuel and send our own truck to bring the load back.
One load probably
We
wouldn't
would
be enough
need
to do
more,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
How many would be?
We'd probably need 500 or 600 yards if we were doing the crossbow.
I think it's thank you very much, but no thanks.
If we do, where do we get the tires? Should we go up to the recycling place?
So if we were to do this, he would be responsible for bringing the tires and doing it. Because he's going to be getting paid by tire stewardship to do
He
this.
picks the tires up here,
That's right.
or wherever.
And so his plan was to pick up the tires at all the surrounding landfills within a couple hour radius, bring them all to a site, bring a mobile shredder, shred them, make a pile. That pile belongs to us. At one point he said it was free, now it's for money. We would then use that for whatever we felt like. There'd be a pile of it, just like gravel. We'd go load it in a truck, take it out to a site and use it.
Well, just a question on the recycle of the tires out there, doesn't the town get part of that?
So you get 50 cents a tire.
The town does, we don't get anything right now.
We should better get, we had better get half of that, or we'll have
No,
a much
but
more
okay.
serious discussion.
So it's 50 cents for a passenger vehicle, more for bigger tires and so on.
And we get, at the Benito landfill, we get 50 cents for each tire that goes through there and sits there for a while.
Well, I just delivered 700 of them,
We thank you for that.
and there's more semi-tires on the way, about 150, 170 semi-tires.
So straw poll, anybody that wants to proceed with this any further, please tell me you want to proceed now.
He seems like a sort of mixed up dude. I don't know.
To me, it sounds like we're just the dumping grounds. When he's done, he walks away and we have a tire mount.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Yeah.
And
he's
we
got
paid for
nobody
it.
willing to let him to operate
Yeah.
there.
That's why I asked before, I said, what does the environment
Apparently they're okay with it. Ish,
this year?
this year.
My other fear, and it sounds goofy or whatever, but what comes the day when somebody has the great idea to go out there with a jerry can and light
Yeah,
that up
yeah.
just to see it? You know, it's,
Well,
Hey, I do not believe I see enough support at the table to pursue this. We will communicate the same to Mr. Schrader, whatever his name is.
the Revy will look after.
The Reeve will look after it.
Bill, I don't know exactly the site you guys are talking about, but
It's a
that's
sit-
by the Thunder Hill there? Like,
Yeah. Oh, for the
No.
actual use of it?
yeah, use of the thing, like, I mean, pit run and geomatting. Like, I mean, hey, that's,
Yeah, the geotech.
we did that before and it ran perfect.
Okay, so, I believe we're done. If somebody again wants to bring that back someday, you just let us know. We'll put that on our agenda for you. 8.3, tax sale. This is the one we spoke about earlier. We looked at this last time, but we didn't properly capture it in the computer, so we need to fix it up. Be it resolved that in accordance with section 365.2 of the Municipal Act, the Council for the Municipality of Swan West does hereby declare 2023 the designated tax year and require all properties in arrears for the year 2022 and prior, including penalties and interest, to be sold at tax sale. Be it further resolved that tax service shall be retained to manage the tax sale process. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second. I saw Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. You'll be happy to know that we have, do we have more than one?
No, did you want one for everyone?
Do you want, everyone want a copy, or want me to read it to you?
No,
what?
reading
This
it
the
is
proposed
fine.
bylaw.
Reading is fine.
Okay,
Oh,
I was
So,
saving
the big
trees.
increase.
Yeah,
yeah.
you got him right here.
We'll take your word for it.
Okay, so we'll go back to 8.1, third reading of bylaw 010523. The changes that were made tonight, I will go over them. Head of council, monthly remuneration shall be $1,400. Deputy head of council shall be $1,050. Councillors shall be $1,000. Hourly rate of $25 per hour. Absence from a regular scheduled meeting of council shall be subject to a deduction of the monthly remuneration in the amount of $100 per meeting. The travel, outside local travel area, daily rate of $200 for a full day consisting of at least 4 hours, or $100 for any portion of the day not exceeding 4 hours. That was all of the changes we made. Does that sound suitable to everyone? Copy is here if anyone wants to hold it in their hand and look at it.
Good.
We shall read a bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 0105-23, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West regarding the remuneration of members of council, shall be read a third time this 23rd day of January 2024, and signed by the Reeve, and signed and sealed by the Chief Administrative Officer. Is there someone who would like to move the resolution? Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution? Councillor McGregor. Any discussion on the resolution? I note that under the rules of the Municipal Act, let me update this
It's a
thing.
recorded vote, isn't it?
This cannot take effect during the current month or be predated, so this will begin February 1st. Your January indemnities will continue.
Shoot.
You will not see this change for January, because January is almost over already.
You're gonna take one.
Oh, Terry, gee, I was tighten up your belt.
I'm gonna diet for a couple of weeks.
Any further discussion?
My candies.
The Municipal Act also requires, as third reading of the bylaw, it is a recorded vote. Those wishing to vote yes, please stick your hand in the sky. I see 7 of us voting yes. To indicate that, there is no opportunity for no or abstain because we have collected all of the votes. The resolution is therefore carried. We are moving to 9.0 committee reports. We will start with Councillor McGregor tonight.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Neely.
Just a watershed meeting, and we pretty well went over the very short meeting. About an hour, right? Something like that. And a slideshow there with all the projects that are underway or got bumped back a year or whatever. And then we had the elections, and then we were basically kicked out. I had to leave after 3 donuts. You wait there?
3 donuts.
I was
They wouldn't let you take
They wouldn't
one
let me
to go.
stay any longer.
Maybe you want us to be appointed soon?
No, I
There's
need to
donuts.
stay off
Oh.
there.
That was about it.
Anything further? No?
No.
Councillor Zbirun.
I got nothing to report.
Councillor Burick.
I attended the Swan Lake Watershed Conservation District meeting as well, and we kind of discussed most of it just now. And then also didn't we have a transportation meeting on January 12th?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we had
Oh,
that.
yeah, I forgot about that.
We had that, and we, each councillor, I think Councillor McGregor, RJ wasn't here, were you?
And you got them.
Yeah.
Brad wasn't
Anyway,
here.
Brad wasn't here.
I was at work.
Oh, Brad wasn't here? Okay.
We got another one coming up on the 8th of February.
Yeah, and we gave the lead hand our wish list, I guess, for the new year, or for the year, and yeah, hopefully we all work together and get things done, and it looks good, looks very promising. The equipment, the men we have, and looks good.
Makes a difference
Yeah.
when you got the man.
Yes, we have good men, and good, that's it.
Councillor Blosha.
Yesterday I had a Health Foundation meeting. It was short, just regular business, just about the hour. And yeah, I attended the transportation meeting, and that was,
Would you like to share the good news about the CT scanner?
well, just that things are going on. That's all I know.
And I'm prompting you for the dollar amount to celebrate.
Oh, the exact
The
dollar?
community contribution being exceeding the 100.
Yes, it did exceed the 100, yeah, I mean, just over, yeah.
So community contribution, I believe 112?
Yeah, it actually might be a little
Little
bit
more?
more
That's
than.
more
like
than
private
still.
donation?
Yes.
Yes, so that's nice.
We had hoped for $100,000.
Yeah.
And the municipalities
Sorry.
indicated they would backstop anything that wasn't collected, and it has exceeded that. So all of the money will still go to the CT scanner, but that means that the municipal contribution will be reduced by the overage. So that's great news for everybody.
I can, if anyone would like to see, I
So
can
when
have it
is,
in my
when is
bag.
it gonna be?
Construction's underway, demolition was completed in December, they're now preparing the room for it. The CT scanner is due to be delivered in late March, early April. First scan is anticipated for June.
And we
Gonna
have,
have to train people.
no, we have 2 people trained now.
What they do over
2
here?
people trained, 1 working on training, so we'll have 3.
Somebody that's already
people
here.
trained to work.
Somebody that's already
I do
here.
know that part, yeah.
Good.
2 fully trained and 1 working on it.
So it should be ready to go when they flip the switch.
Exactly.
If you want to volunteer, I'm sure they're looking for a test subject.
Well, use me for a guinea pig, I can do. First one through the chute.
Anything else, Councillor Blosha?
No, thank you.
Councillor Kushniryk.
I just had the LED, which we discussed the splash park, that was the main focus of the night, and that was all I basically made it to.
He did have a meeting last night that he did
Did.
not attend.
Oh, he forgot.
He fell asleep.
Well, you lose $100 there, then.
Too old to lay down. No, not till February.
We have to amend that, you can't do that till you're over 70.
Oh, I don't know.
Right, Pat?
Young guy like Brad there, he fell asleep, man, right.
I'll add a little more to the transportation meeting. You were done, I assume, that's it?
I was just gonna mention that, that could happen to anyone when you're looking forward to the wit of Mr. Gade.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think there's a compliment there someplace, I'm not sure.
Not really.
Or a big deduction.
Is there still time to amend that bylaw to say that the person representing Ward 2 gets nothing?
It was worth it.
So at the transportation meeting, we did have wish lists come in from several members of council. But a couple people weren't there and a couple people didn't have huge long wish lists. So what we've asked members of council to do is to get these lists of projects that they need done so that we can get them to Scott. He was having a little trouble with the whole everybody just shouting out their stuff. So we asked you to write it down. He's getting a copy. It's going onto a main master list, getting prioritized and hopefully all getting done this year. So those of you that haven't provided lists, if you have things on your list, please get them in writing. It can be an email, it can be handwritten. We'll circulate it to all members of council, but the lead hand will also get it so he can proceed on with prioritization.
He hasn't got it yet.
Hmm?
You know that he hasn't got it yet.
He doesn't have it yet?
No.
He didn't get copies of them that night?
Oh, that, yeah.
Yes.
But the compiled
Oh, yes.
list.
Right. Yeah, yeah, we're
Just-
still
just to be
typing
clear.
up the list.
We put down stuff like brush cutting and things like that, but that's sort of like, well, it should be maintenance, right?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it is something that we should be telling them every little place that needs to be cut or.
I would think there's more culverts and stuff like that, or approaches you want.
Road rebuilding or road.
Abnormal
improvement,
stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
road-
new
Yeah.
weird things, not just one tree unless the tree's been there a
Well,
while.
there's
it
one
doesn't
that's in the
disappear.
power line by the airport, but I'm scared to cut her down with a chainsaw.
You're really not supposed to.
No.
You're supposed to call hydro.
Sort
If
of
you're
like
going
a
to do it
feller
yourself,
bucket, so you
call
can
us
cut it,
ahead.
just pick it out of there and move it. You know?
If you insist on cutting it yourself, if you can just let us know, we'd all like to come watch.
Yeah.
See how that turns out for
I'm
you.
taking 2 saws, usually I get one caught in a tree. Trying to pull it the wrong way.
Forgive me, but let me just pull up my list on the phone so that I can speak knowledgeably to everything else and not forget anything. So we've mentioned the RISE meeting a little bit, we talked about the tire recycling. I attended a Northern Chambers meeting on Thursday last week. So that's all chambers from Swan River North. So Swan River, the Paw, Flin Flon, Thompson. It was a virtual meeting, it was on Zoom. So we spent an hour. They hadn't met since before COVID, but Swan River is part of that group. So I was there on behalf of the Swan Valley Chamber. We were discussing a bunch of things. The employment issues of not being able to find enough staff. So discussed at the meeting was a project that's ongoing from Northwest Immigrant Services to provide local approval for immigrants. Right now, if you're a business in Swan River and wish someone to come, there's the provincial nominee program. You can apply to them. You can take the normal stream federally, but the new program would allow for the committee that's based in Swan River to say, Terry needs 5 employees. He has 5 lined up. We approve those 5 people to come work for him. So you wouldn't have to go through all that red tape other places. It would speed up the hiring process for local businesses that need to have someone come in. So it's quite useful. We talked a lot about crime in that meeting. Certainly everybody's feeling it the same. They showed quite a lot of interest in what the Swan Valley is doing with the different initiatives we're trying. So we discussed some of that there as well. I did actually attend the LUD meeting. I didn't intend to, but I happened to be in the building at the time making the video cameras work, and they all showed up, and I figured, well, I guess I'll take a chair and see what's up. So it was nothing huge there. The spray park was discussed and some other issues, but for the most part, things are going well in the LUD. There was an issue came up with the Swan Valley West phone system. This is not the first time we've dealt with this. When you called the office, you were receiving the wrong list of council members, again, even though I was certain we had changed it once. So I spent some more time on that. We reprogrammed the entire phone system. As near as I know, I hope this is true, you now receive the correct list of councillors when you push the button.
No, okay.
We also now have set up voicemail for the staff. So you can leave a message for the CAO, you can leave a message for finance any time of the day. If the office is closed, you can still leave a message. The messages left for the general office are now being responded to every day like they should be. So the whole thing should be working properly. We have to do a little bit more training with staff because right now when a call comes in, if Councillor Zbirun has it or if it's for me, his solution is say, "Bell phone!" We're going to fix that up so he pushes the button and it goes to my phone. So that's our one more step we have yet to do. And I think that will take care of most of the concerns the staff have because for some reason they don't like screaming at each other, as fun as it is. I attended a head of council meeting on the 15th of January. That was missing Larry, Reeve for Minitona's Bozeman, but we had Keith and Lance and I were there. We discussed GIS among other issues. I also attended the Swan Valley School Division meeting. They requested a meeting with representatives from heads of council. That stems from the last G8 meeting where we talked about reconciliation and they were going to make a proposal to the municipal groups on what to do about that. We discussed it for an hour. They recommend we hire someone to come and visit with all of our members of council, but not the public, to explain to us the reconciliation process, answer our questions, and try to train us in that. It would be similar to a meeting that Councillor Blosha would have attended for the school division already, where they spent a day of professional development on that. Much the same message, probably the same speaker as well. The reason for not the public is they feel that members of council would probably have questions that they would like to ask privately that sometimes might come across wrong in a public meeting because many of us are fairly new to the topic, and so sometimes we ask things in less than the preferred way of referring to various questions from the past. The point of which would be to kind of get us understanding well the residential school issues and everything surrounding that and how to move forward. Councillor Neely?
We do this as a group in the evening?
We do it as a group of all 4 councils.
Oh, all 4.
If they get the same speaker, he was a good speaker. You would like it, is what I'm saying.
Well,
I mean, if they get the same, if you're saying they get the
you can
same
always get more
speaker,
education.
who everyone says looks like Walt Canoe, but he is not. Yeah, he was a good speaker.
He costs $5,000
Yeah.
a day plus expenses. And so the school division was quite concerned, who would pay the $5,000? And I said, well, there's 4 municipalities, like,
You gotta split
it's
it.
a couple $1,000s each. This isn't a huge deal. I'm sure we can do it. So they were going to do a little more research. Earlier today I saw they sent out notes of the meeting, but I didn't have a time to go through it. But it's returning, I believe, to the G8 meeting shortly to discuss if we wish to all move forward on it. And I suspect the answer will be yes, but we'll see what everybody has to say. According to this, have we met 2 weeks ago would have been the 9th, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the crash in Benito is something we haven't dealt with at this meeting yet. So let's recap what happened there. On the evening of January 13th, there was several calls received for no water pressure in Benito. The thought was it was a failure at the water plant. As you know, we've been watching an issue with one of the supply lines there that's been leaking. The contractor is coming to replace that line. Our fear was that that line had burst inside the reservoir and had caused no pressure. Staff attended the water plant, found out that indeed we were producing water and we were putting it out to the system at 30 liters per second. That typically in Benito on a hot Saturday night, we might see 2 or 3 liters a second going into the system. So we were running 10 times more water into distribution than normal. The pieces started to fall together because as the one staff member was leaving the rink where he was working to go, he saw a vehicle attempting to extricate itself from a ditch and was hearing people talking about how there had been a crash with a fire hydrant. Typically, fire hydrants are designed to not do what they do in the movies where the water comes out. They're supposed to shear off and that would be good. The problem was the fire hydrant got stuck in under the truck, and as the truck spun around trying to get away, it managed to damage the valve to the point that the fire hydrant was at full flow. So as much water as we could supply was coming out the hydrant. We estimate 20 to 30,000 gallons of water were dumped into the ditch in about 15 to 20 minutes. So the ditch was full of water. That made it very difficult to get in there and deal with it. There was a cutoff valve for the fire hydrant, so we were able to access that through some creative means that probably we won't discuss in case it violated workplace health and safety rules, but it was done. And we turned that valve was turned off for the most part. We had thought we had it off. We couldn't see water coming out, but everything was under several feet of water. So it had to be left for the night. The water went down. By morning, we could see it was still leaking. So we did have TNC contracting out to first thaw the rest of it out because there was some ice in it by then and do some work on the valve and get it closed. So it is completely closed. The pressure, unfortunately, the system hit 0. We simply weren't able to supply enough water to keep above 20 psi. That resulted in a boil water order being issued for the Benito utility. We completed our mandatory testing. The tests were clean on the system as we expected they would be. The boil water order was rescinded last week, so the Benito system is fine. We believe that repairs on that fire hydrant will not require another boil water order because the cutoff valve is working correctly, so we'll be able to do that repair work without affecting the system at all. So we are working staff on the insurance claim for that. We at this point still believe the person had insurance on their vehicle, which means we will be claiming the full amount from their insurance company for all of the repairs, call-out time, you name it. It's going to his insurance to pay for it all. A question was raised by a former member of council rather loudly if the rural area was going to get stuck paying for what happened in Benito. So I did provide him an answer I'll share with you, and it is this. Technically speaking, that fire hydrant is owned by the utility. Whatever it costs to fix it, the utility must pay as part of the utility budget. However, by law, the utility must charge to the municipality an appropriate amount to cover the maintenance and replacement of all fire hydrants, which we pay as a fire hydrant rental fee. So while immediately it would be paid by the utility, in time, the municipality would have to pay it back because that rate would end up going up a bit to make sure it was covered. So yes, eventually rural would pay for it as part of firefighting, but they wouldn't pay for it immediately. Best case for everybody, of course, is that the man's insurance pays and there's no cost to our taxpayers. So that's to wit, he has insurance and we will be receiving that payment back. The risk, of course, is if he doesn't have insurance, but it looks like he does. So I believe we're going to be fine there. That represents everything I've done, save that transportation meeting, since our last meeting here.
Just have a question on that fire hydrant thing. You said it ran up, there was no water left, it was running out one end as quick as it was coming in the other. What if they hook a hose on that hydrant? Is it neck down? Like if you put a hose on that hydrant and you're fighting a fire, what happens?
What's
Is it
supposed to
gonna run
happen?
out of water too?
Which technically they'd never pull the full 6 inches because they'd probably put a hose on and open it and take some. What should happen, and here's the should and here's what didn't work. We have a submersible pump in the reservoir. It's on a 2-inch line. So it pumps as hard as it can, but it only has a 2-inch line leaving it. Our water lines are 6 inches. So it cannot populate a 6-inch line. It just can't do it because it only comes out of the pump at 2. We have 2 more additional pumps that they call them jockey pumps. I don't know why. They're also each 2-inch lines. So with those 3 pumps running, we can supply a full 6 inches of water to the system at full pressure. But what we're bringing in is much less than that. That night, you could see the reservoir dropping as we put the water out at that speed.
A fire hose is what, 3 inches in diameter? maybe?
And they would use it to fill a truck, and they might use it for hoses, but they're not necessarily just letting it run, right? We also have a fire pump, and the fire pump is pumping at a much larger size. So if we're running all 4 pumps at the same time, we can drain that reservoir in an hour, if we really give her. And then if they've got 3 fire trucks hooked up, we can supply 3 fire trucks, but not indefinitely, because we will run out of water eventually. What happened was when the system called for additional water because the pressure was beginning to go down, the pump appears to have started, but the impeller did not spin. So the pump overheated, the additional pressure wasn't provided. The system should have seen that fire hydrant blow off. It should have engaged pump 2. If that wasn't enough, go to pump 3. When that wasn't enough, pump 4 would start, and we would blow that thing sky high with that fire hydrant.
Other problems.
We found some
from
other
this
problems.
incident.
Yep. So those are being repaired as well. The impeller thing, Contact is looking at when they come out, if they can just replace that part, or if the whole pump's replaced. And there's a continuing issue on the fire pump that's been in existence for months now, of it's throwing an oil pressure sensor error. So it's saying there's no oil pressure, we've confirmed there is pressure. They're also bringing the sending unit with them to replace the sending unit in the pump so that it clears the air and it will automatically start properly. It's the only pump that is not electric powered. So typically speaking, it's all on a system that doesn't require any electricity. It has its self-contained battery. As that pressure comes down to about 40 PSI, it will start on its own battery and power the system through a power outage so the pressure is maintained. But with the sending unit not working, it starts, goes for a couple minutes and says, I don't think there's any oil pressure, and turns off. So that's getting fixed too.
I was just worried about the water supply.
It should work, but obviously, what we should have found that leak because it should have been a fountain in the sky, and it was only coming out a foot or so.
And a Volkswagen up on top.
Absolutely, just for good measure. Any other questions or comments for committee reports? Anything anybody wants to speak on? Anything at all? With that, we will take a break. Go check the weather outside. When we come back, we'll be going in camera. We will be discussing questions come from the union, kind of, some HR matters. We will be discussing what we referred to in camera for that property, and that's probably most of our discussion tonight. So with that, we will adjourn for 10 minutes and see everybody back here soon. So everyone has returned to the meeting. We were scheduled to go in camera, but we're actually going back to 6-7 while everybody's here. So that particular resolution was moved by Councillor Kushniryk, seconded by Councillor McGregor. When we read the resolution and it was typed out, it was northwest 103428. It should have been southwest 103428. So I've made the change to the resolution, but we need the approval of both the mover and seconder, Councillor Kushniryk, Councillor McGregor, and we also need to have council reconsider the motion. We can do that seeing how we're all here. So is there any further discussion on the revised resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor of the revised resolution, that is once again carried. We move now to number 10.1 in camera. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, enforcement of an act or bylaw related to that property, and I believe that is all for this evening. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely, any discussion? We'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Coming out of our in-camera session, we had skipped over an item earlier to see what our time would be like tonight, and we have a few minutes before we alternate into pumpkins. So we're going to go to 541, the 5-year capital plan, and hold a little discussion on that, plus we'll talk about at least one trailer Mr. Kushniryk wishes to speak of. Attached to the agenda tonight is a copy of the capital plan from last year, we're required by law to project the 5-year expenditures for capital. So this shows buying a couple graders, 24, 25, and 27, buying a tractor in 25 and 27, a mower in 24, and doing $200,000 of road improvements each year as capital works. We discussed a little last time around the capital planning for what we wanted to do. I promised to force you to talk about it a little more again as time went on, so we get this figured out for the budget. So we'll start with Councillor Kushniryk and a trailer he wants to speak of, and then we'll get into the rest too.
Well, we had talked about getting a dump trailer. So one just happened to cross my path. It's in town here. It's a 2013 Trail Tech trailer. I had Scott go look at it. It's got two 7,000-pound axles. Needs a little TLC. It's not mint by any means. It's been used. Tires around 40-50%. Eats tail light, couple odds and ends. Maybe $1,000 probably, somewhere in that range. The same trailer is over 20,000 new, and it's got a brand new tarp cover for it still in the box. And he's looking to get $8,000 out of it. So I don't imagine it's going to hang around too long.
Basically needs a set of tires.
Battery box apparently needs a bit of work, but that's going to be nothing. Peanuts, right?
Yeah.
And it's too heavy for a guy with a class 5 to pull. If you go to max, but we can register it later and make it
Yeah,
pull
you
it.
have to have a class tire to pull that trailer around.
If we register at 4,540 kilograms or whatever, that caps it, so we can't load it to its capacity. But those other guys can still drive it, and it would still pull 3,000, 4,000 pounds of weight.
If that trailer's licensed for 14,000 pounds,
If it's licensed there, then the class 3.
you actually have to have a class 3 license just to drive the empty trailer around.
But you can under-register them.
Well, if you license it for 9,990
Yes.
pounds.
Then the other guy can drive it.
Then
So
you're
we
good.
can't use it to capacity, but I don't think we need it to go
Well,
that high.
But that skid steer weighs 11,000 something.
This wouldn't be skid steer. This would be to replace if we give the Benito dump truck to be the puller truck and put a flat deck, then we were going to get a dump trailer to replace it. So that would open up that path. Follow what I'm saying?
Oh,
This is just to give so that, because we have stuff that dumps in Benito right now, they collect greens, they do stuff like that, right? We could still haul sand with it if we need to or whatever. But if we take the Benito truck right now, take our box off it, put a flat deck, that gives us a truck to pull the
oh,
skid
to
steer
pull
with,
out of the other trailer. I see
So
what
this would
you're
just
doing.
replace that.
I see what you're doing.
and gives us that truck to move out of Benito.
Well, that's a good price, and that trailer's not gonna be going up and down the highway a lot.
It's not gonna see a ton of use, so I mean, yeah,
How long a box on? 14?
14, 12? 12 or 14,
14.
I forget. I'll probably have it in my phone.
Yeah, likely 14. They wouldn't make a short one like that.
Let me check here.
For 12,000 bucks, you can buy a lot of tires. 4 tires for that thing is $1,000.
To me, like if we buy it and a year from now we decide, oops, we'll get that money back out of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's not gonna go down.
14 ply tires for those, 16-inch tires. You can get 14 ply. I mean, you can hardly drive a nail in them suckers.
I don't have the length in here. I might have it with Scott.
It doesn't matter.
It's in that range. Like for what would be looking for to replace the Benito truck, it would work totally fine.
Well, we've already determined we need a truck to pull the trailer to haul the
Yes.
steer and the mower and the brush cutter and everything, or the blower and the brush cutter and everything. Well, at least I've determined that. I don't know about RJ. What do you think, buddy? We have to have something where we don't need the tandem truck to haul that.
Yeah.
Steer around.
And the part 2 of this, I guess, would be if we were to proceed with something like this, do we give the guys the go ahead to start planning to put a deck on that truck so it can be ready to move that skid steer around?
And so the deck gets to be a gooseneck is,
The deck will be a gooseneck.
that's what, we'd get a gooseneck trailer for
I
this.
think we'd
skid
get
steer.
rid of the
Yeah,
pedal
we'd
hitch
have to
trailer and
have
get a
a
gooseneck.
gooseneck trailer.
And then we're good to haul whatever.
They
wherever.
pull away, they handle the load.
Yeah,
Way
distribute it nicely.
There's
And,
not much.
but yeah, if we don't get moving on that, then it won't be ready either for spring. So right now, when they have
Wow.
downtime in the winter, they can work on that stuff.
I don't know, what do you think, Byron?
Sounds good.
Brian? Are they? What do you think, partner?
How high the sides of the truck, or the trailer?
He had wooden extensions on them, but I think a guy for us would maybe take them off. God, I didn't even go look at it. I just said, Scott, I've got a couple
2.5 feet or
pictures.
3 feet?
I don't know if
Would
they'd
it be
be
that
that
high?
The
tall.
lip's likely 2 feet for sure, the metal lip. And hydraulics are good,
Yeah, he just used it the other day. He's got a new one, but he still had his old one loaded.
Whose is it?
Corey, Holian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he looks up there.
Scott said it's seen some gravel, like it's got some road gravel, but it's 10 years old. Yeah, he had this load in it too, to be able to show you. There's the 4 pictures of it not loaded with stuff.
Get my goggles on.
Oh, yeah.
And there's, but I mean, they're not great, but that's the trailer there.
Yeah, that's a 2-foot size about 8,
Yeah, roughly.
26 inches or something.
Probably similar to what you guys have.
Yeah, it is.
And my understanding is there's 4 real makers of these things, and this is one of the better ones, Trail Tech. I don't know.
Well,
Ironically, I believe it is made in Gravelburg, where our garbage truck came from.
they sell them a slab.
Sides can come off?
He had wooden extensions on them.
But
Just
those
like-
metal ones,
No, don't.
no.
I mean, you could
There'll
put
be enough room.
wooden,
Dump trailers.
you could put the
Whatever
extension
the heck
back
you
on to
want,
haul branches and light stuff, you know, but
Yeah, I think Scott said a couple of wooden extensions are busted, but he said you put them on so you don't wreck the sides when you're throwing stuff in too.
2x4s
So
or 2x.
that's all they are.
Are you,
I would say we should buy that trailer. We should buy, or get a flat deck to put on that 3-ton, is it? Is it 4?
Is that a 3 or a 4? I think it might be a 4-ton. I'm not.
Is
I'd
it-
say 3 for sure.
It's
I
a
think it's a
dually, right?
Is it a 3?
The dually,
Yeah.
right? The old garbage truck.
It's heavier though. It's not like yeah, it'd be a 3.
Yeah, yeah.
F450. I think it is 450. Yeah.
Okay, that's one and a quarter ton, 1.5.
But we looked up all the numbers and we spec'd it out. It'll pull everything.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Once we go to a 5th wheel, no problem.
Isn't there 550?
Maybe it's a 550.
Okay, that's
I don't
a little
remember
bit
now.
bigger.
I have it on here.
Anyways, it's plenty of truck to pull the trailer to haul that good, that skid steer on. Now we have to look to buy a skid, well, I guess that'll be a budget item, but.
so I have a resolution if you're wishing to present one, which reads, be it resolved, the Municipality of Swan Lake West authorize the sole source purchase of a used dump trailer as discussed and proceed with the refurbishment plans for the Benito dump truck. Councillor Neely so makes a motion. Is there someone that would like to second it? Councillor Kushniryk, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. Back to our capital planning. It's getting to be 10, so I don't want to keep this here much later. But we seriously need to figure out this capital budget because it'll be the hardest part of the budget. Is everybody agreeable? We'll go home. We'll pick this up again next time. But please, 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 this is attached. Look through it. Think about it. Come back next time with solid thoughts on what we should do.
It's just a question, and I think maybe everybody knows the answer but me, but I think we decided we're not buying a grader this year.
I think so. Yeah. I think that's the consensus is no greater this year unless
Yeah, well-
something amazing
So
comes
it's
along.
in there, but it was just in there.
This
for
was in there,
discussion.
this is from last year.
Yeah.
So this is what we approved last year, but we can change whatever's there, but we have to have the changes done before we pass the budget. And we don't want to be June again. We'd like to be done soon.
We were talking about buying a low bed to pull with the Kenworth. Is that still something we're thinking of? Around the table, so we can move our scroll.
I know, that's what we're talking about.
Move our brush
210.
cutter, or 210, with the brush cutter on it, so we don't have to
Didn't we
hire.
have prices on it too?
So-
We had prices on new, and then we kind of looked at the idea of perhaps we should buy used, because it's a lot cheaper. But we also talked about the idea that the used come and go pretty quick. And our cycle of find it, get here, approve it, get it bought is kind of tough. So we had talked about doing a resolution to authorize sort of ahead of time one.
The reason I'm asking, I went to Neepwa Saturday for a load of bear bait. Norman Wheeler come with me, is what he said. And we were talking about stuff. He said, well, I've got a little bed for sale. You want one, it's got the hydraulics, everything. He said, don't buy the mechanical hookup. It's the one you drop the trailer on the ground, you drive up the front, and then you back into it, and up she goes. You don't want
That's-
mechanical, he says, because it's gotta be on perfectly level ground, or you're looking for
That's the
trouble.
style Scott said he wanted,
The hydraulic one?
I believe, yeah.
And it'll be.
Because some have the pump built right on and some don't.
It has a motor.
Yeah, so that's the style
You
that
start the
Scott wants.
motor and it just lifts it.
Does its whole thing on its own, you don't even
Like
need the truck.
Scott's used to work.
When we had the logging business, we had them, and I mean, we moved equipment a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
just to be clear, this is the one that works on uneven ground? Is what we're talking about?
It works on uneven.
Yeah.
So it's good for anything?
It's got
Okay.
the hydraulic stuff.
Yeah, that's why Scott
Oh.
wanted it. This
Yeah,
is the
because if
style.
you're sitting on it, you know,
Okay, I
you
thought
have
he was
trouble.
telling you.
Yeah.
If you got the mechanical.
And he said those other style get twisted. Lots of guys push them too hard and they twist them up and then.
Anyways, he said he could sell it for $50,000.
Oh, jeez. We haven't seen anything in that price range.
Everything cheaper.
Higher.
Higher, well,
Yeah,
I
much
don't know
higher.
what year it is.
Someone should look at it.
It'll be in good
that's for
shape.
sure.
Yeah.
They safety vehicles and stuff out there. I don't know if it's his or his boys now, I don't even know anymore.
Oh, I'd get his info to Scott and let him go look because that was low bidding was his thing.
Hey, and I'm gonna tell you guys something here, and Brian knows something. He's on the internet all the time, he's right up to date on prices on things and all this kind of stuff. That's where I get a lot of my information, I'll tell you right here. He knows the prices of things, I mean, he's got the knowledge, he's got the mechanical experience, he's a heavy-duty diesel mechanic for 40 or 50 years.
I like 50 grand a lot more because we should also be upgrading our belly dump.
Oh, come on, you're not getting everything what year.
Spring
But anyway, there's
suspension,
something to
spring
think about,
gate.
okay? He says if they want it, I'll sell it to them, I'll find another one. He's on Ritchie Brothers all the time, like, you know.
So shall we have Scott go look?
Mhm.
And if we determine this to be good, we'll come back next meeting with some sort of a plan.
734-8532.
Well, may as well just text that to Scott now to tell him
Yep.
he's phoning him tomorrow. Scott.
That would solve a lot of troubles to have that.
Well, he'll sell it whenever we're ready, like,
Yeah.
he's not, you know, he says, I'm no panic. He
We-
sits, sits in the yard most of the time unless I buy something in Ritchie Brothers, then I gotta go get it.
84, 32,
85.
85, 32.
85, 32.
8532.
Okay, we will do that and see what comes of it. That certainly sounds better than what we saw for prices on the other ones.
Well, it's not like we're gonna be going up and down the highway all the time with it, right?
We just need something that works.
And he'll go through it and he'll have it safety to be ready to go.
Nice. Any other discussion we want to have tonight on the capital stuff? We'll pick it up next meeting. And again, looking for the road improvements. We want to nail down which roads a little bit more. We've talked about a few, but thoughts on that, and then thoughts on any other equipment as we roll this all into a budget of some sort.
We're talking about road improvement, we're talking like, we wanna do the main roads first before we go and do some turkey trail outs and.
Ward 6.
Oh, turkey trails up there.
You say turkey trail?
216 was one that came
216
up.
is one, yeah.
The Durban Road 168.
Yeah.
That came up. There's a small portion of 198 in like a quarter mile right at Foster's Corner there that should
Yeah.
really be done. It's
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
dirt, we should build that up a couple inches, but not the whole mile, just that little piece.
Like stuff I was thinking, like that culvert right beside my driveway. I mean, that road is really narrow right there, eh? So I don't know whether
Washed
that
out and never really got widened
Yeah,
proper again.
like, but the culvert itself is, I mean, you can't really build the road up because the culvert is,
We need extensions on each end.
yeah.
Well, that culvert will run into our watershed project
Ooh.
because that feeds that way. So
Yeah,
we can get
yeah,
them to
that's
widen
right.
the culvert and then we'll do the road.
Just something like, I don't know if that's,
Okay.
That's the same as the culverts coming across where heading to the lagoon. That should be
Right.
fixed up and clean, but watershed will hopefully help out with that too.
Okay. Anything else tonight? Any notice of motions to present tonight? Hearing none. Next resolution be resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 10:07 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, February
13th.
13th.
Day
before Valentine's
Oh,
Lucky. No,
Can we alter that?
Come on. Let's have it Wednesday.
I want Wednesday.
I moved to
I have a medical appointment on the 13th. Can we move the meeting to the 14th?
I also
How
actually,
much is Brian paying you?
see how you mentioned, I
Get
believe I
extra
also
chocolate.
have something on the 13th. So would everybody be agreeable to Wednesday the 14th?
I'd even put an extra hour in.
Midnight or what?
Yep.
I have a mover, I need a seconder. Councillor Neely, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, no, that was very good. Yeah, no, we wouldn't want to.